This guy was taking a bath when 3 girls suddenly burst into his room, sent by the princess to wash the guest's body and his desires. Could this be paradise? Are the gods finally rewarding his suffering? A few months earlier, before the world was attacked, this guy's girlfriend told him they were breaking up because Hyun had no future and didn't deserve to marry someone like her. They'd been together for 5 years, and now it was over. It hit him hard. So hard that the MC quit his miserable job and locked himself in his room, doing nothing but gaming. But this guy has a talent for one thing. He's the best player of Pangania, a game so brutal it makes Dark Souls look like a bad joke. In this game, even the NPCs can betray you and land a fatal blow. Die in the game, and you lose all your progress, forced to start a brand new character from scratch. Every quest puts your life on the line. The only upside, every time you die and lose your character, you earn soul points. Points you can pour into boosting your next character's stats. Our protagonist is a washed-up loner who's been grinding this game for years, sitting on millions of points. And when he finally creates his first character with every stat maxed out, something unprecedented happens. His computer screen turns blood red, a voice rips through his mind until he blacks out. And this time, he won't just be playing his character, he'll be living inside their skin. If he dies or fails the mission, it'll be real death. He wakes to the sound and pain of a whip on his back. He is told that if he falls one more time, he will become hydrogen food. Reality has not yet sunk in, but seeing all these slaves in the desert, he remembers. He does not want to believe it. A hydrogen carrying cargo and slaves. The mercenaries strike him once more. Unless he wants to lose his life, he must walk. Hyun now understands his reality. This is the game's starting scenario. This place is just like Pangania. If everything is the same, he cleverly speaks the magic words. Status window. A system screen appears before him. Hyun can't believe it worked. The window says all his attributes are 12 and he has several active and hidden talents. There is no mistake. He is in the game world. If he dies here, it is character death, which means he is the character now. He notices something strange. The points go from 1 to 10, so how does he have 12? Besides that, what are these 13 hidden talents? He has no time to think about it. The ground trembles intensely. Hyun has no idea what is happening, and not even the mercenaries seem to know either. On the horizon, the army of the Desert Queen is charging forward. The woman comes mounted on dragons. Her very presence terrifies the soldiers. But the MC is surprised, because he recognizes this woman. This is the Snake Princess, and he has seen her before. Then the system issues an alert. The main quest has been generated. He must survive to get good rewards. If he dies here, his body in the real world will also die. Now he feels the fear. His life is truly in danger. A shower of arrows is launched into the sky. The slaves cannot defend themselves or escape. Hyun freezes, realizing his life is at risk. He is paralyzed with fear, but when his face is wounded, Hyun's mind clears. Furthermore, the wound unlocks his first hidden talent, the monarch's heart. The slaves are struck by arrows, and now the soldiers come to eliminate the rest. Hyun needs to break free of his shackles, and there are the keys. A soldier is about to reach him. A single sword strike in this world is fatal, but Hyun grabs the dead soldier's sword. As he takes the blade, a powerful energy surges through it. The soldier who tries to strike him does not even see the slave move past and land the blow. He is defeated in an instant. Hyun now has only one thing to do: use his Master of Arms talent, activated the moment he picked up a sword. He cannot afford to fail even once. More soldiers come. He moves through them, shattering their weapons and cutting their limbs. A bald soldier's spear is cut in two, and Hyun grabs the broken tip. He hurls it at another soldier, killing a second bald man. The mercenary with the covered face also tries to attack. Hyun dodges the attack, and he realizes he can see something beyond the normal. A blue line that shows the openings in the enemy's defense. This must be another hidden talent. Then, with a precise strike, he runs the mercenary through. Hyun is a savage force, but there are nearly 500 soldiers here. There is no way to face them all without growing exhausted. There are too many of them to fight at once. Hyun receives an alert that his sword proficiency has reached level 6. The same happens with the spear, which also reaches level 6. This rate of growth is also abnormal. But even with all this, there are more than 500 soldiers. Sometime earlier, the Snake Princess is in another place. An even more beautiful woman questions why the expedition to the demon world failed. It is both a question and a threat. The princess simply confirms the failure. The queen says that if word gets out that the desert city of Faisalmer sent no troops, the fools on the central continent will blame them for the failure. The Snake Princess must go to the Kaltzman Desert and eliminate every participant from the expedition. They must eliminate all evidence that could prove Faisalmer sent no troops, and anything that could be tied to the failure. The queen promises to lift her curse if she succeeds this time. She kneels. She then says she understands the order. This time, she will not fail. As the commander, she waits for the soldiers to report that they have defeated everyone. But a soldier says there is one last slave who refuses to die. The princess does not understand how a slave could stand against a soldier. The truth is, he did not just resist. In reality, he made the soldiers unable to fight back. There are 500 of them, but they are all afraid now. Even as he gasps for air, a system notification appears. He has reached level 2. Hyun-myung is determined not to die, and one of his talents cures his fatigue. This is perfect. Now he is ready to face them all. Of course, the soldiers are afraid. This forces the princess to take the field herself. Hyun-myung never expected to see her this close. Isabella von Dersian, the Serpent Princess. The system shows she is level 8 and cannot leave the area due to a negative effect from the Queen's curse. Confirming she is level 8, Hyun-myung knows he has no chance of surviving against her. In this world, you are weak until level 7. Once you reach level 8, you are considered among the strongest in the world. Only the great bosses and leaders are level 8 in this game. Facing her is like an ant against a lion. But something else catches Hyun-myung's attention, and it is not the girl's chest. It is the system notification about her being under the effect of a curse. The woman dismounts and announces that the NPC's little show is over. Hyun-myung can feel her gathering aura with every step. He needs to think fast to survive. He is considered the best at this game, and not just for his mechanical skill. He knows everything about the game's lore. As Isabella attacks him with a mortal blow, he asks if she does not want to be free of the Queen's curse. Hyun-myung gambles everything on his words. The blade stops. It worked. The fish took the bait. The woman stares at him, trying to understand how he could possibly know that. She desperately wants to know who he is. Hyun-myung claims he is the Star Bearer and can help her break the Queen's curse, allowing her to leave this desert. Isabella is even more surprised by this. It worked. The girl believes him. Hyun-myung knows that the Star Bearer is an NPC class required to transcend to the maximum level. The class exists only for NPCs, and it is clear he is not the real one. But removing the Queen's curse requires the blessing of the stars. Since she wants to be free of the curse, she has to listen to him. The reason he is so sure she wants to be free of the curse is quite simple. Isabella von Dersian is a character he created. She was an unfortunate character he had to neglect because she chose the wrong starting point, and the Queen's curse is a mechanic designed to keep players in the initial area at the start of the game. But a player character is meant to see the game's ending, and they are supposed to travel the world to reach it. But he left her in this place, trapped by the Queen's curse. Isabella asks for the protagonist's name. Hyun-myung replies that his name is Randolph, and so, his character name is Set. They both stare at each other, an incredible tension between them, but Isabella turns away, saying she will postpone taking his life for now, but if he is lying, she will cut him into pieces. Then she orders him to be escorted, as he is an honored guest and must be treated with the utmost care. The survival mission is complete. Then the system begins to calculate the results. Randolph stands up as the system announces he has broken records with a perfect result. The constellation of fortune has smiled upon him, improving his rewards, while the constellation of battle remarks that it was not bad at all. He obtains a broken piece of the golden scale, a hydrogen soul, and Michaela's sword. Randolph collapses to the floor, thinking that he somehow survived. He opens his half-lidded eyes. He has a total of 220 points, and his results will be added to the Hall of Fame. In the castle, as night falls on that day, Randolph sits in a luxurious bathtub. He analyzes the status windows in front of him. Randolph notes that the hydrogen soul is infamous for having dropped only once since the game's launch, and that Michaela's sword is a must-have item for the early game. But he wonders what this broken piece of the golden scale is, and what the synchronization between reality and Pangania means. Suddenly, a few maids open the door behind him. They ask if he would like them to wash him. Randolph replies that they can wash only his feet, and wonders if they are already testing him. The girls begin to rinse his feet. Randolph notices they are Isabella's chambermaids, and if he shows any reaction, they will become suspicious of him. Because the Star Bearer shows no reaction to any stimulus, he mentally tells himself to remain calm, but he holds his gaze, looking at the chest of one of the girls. Startled, he calls up his attribute window, but he notices something different this time. He wants to know what the hell this boundary between reality and Pangania is. Another window opens before him. The Hall of Fame message says he unlocked the log out function by entering the survival rankings. The girl calls out to the Star Bearer. Randolph thinks this is impossible. Gracia and I Love Mint Chocolate are two people he has played with before. He thought they had quit the game since they disappeared, but it seems they were summoned. And on top of all that, he has unlocked the log out function. He thinks he can leave this damned game. So he tells the maids to stop, as he needs to communicate with the stars. He says that if he does not communicate with them in time, he will lose his powers, and asks if the princess would like that. One of the maids is left speechless. Randolph tells them to let Isabella know he will see her when the communication is finished, and with that, the door to the room closes. Randolph remarks that, thank God, the excuse actually worked. He was afraid he would be trapped in this place forever. He decides he will never return to this game again. He presses the log out button. The system begins to log him out, but warns that he must keep his character in a safe place, because if he loses his life there, he will lose it in the real world as well. And with that, he successfully logs out of the game. Back in his room, Noises can be heard in the distance. A fire is spreading across the city. People run, screaming for help. A monstrous mantis stands in the middle of the fire. A phone blares a disaster alert. Randolph wonders what that is. He looks at the mantises through the window. The creature screams when it sees him. Randolph falls to the floor, cursing. He wonders why there are monsters from Pangania in the real world. Something then falls from his pocket. The golden scale has come with him. All the previous events begin to flood his mind. He grabs his chair, realizing this is his room. Maybe he fell asleep after playing Pangania for so long. Of course. There's no way that could have happened. His life is not a manhwa, so it makes no sense. It must have been a dream. But then he notices a pouch and the scale in front of him. He wonders if these things have always been in his room, dreading the thought that it was all real. He puts the scale in his pocket and wonders what the game gave him. But the page does not exist, and a message tells him to contact customer support. Randolph thinks the page simply vanished while he was not looking, until voices from outside scream that there is a monster and plead for help. They are fleeing from a giant praying mantis that is causing chaos in the city. Some humans have already lost their lives. Meanwhile, police officers declare an emergency as several unidentified monsters appear. Randolph's phone buzzes with a notification. He wonders what that is. The scene repeats itself as he asks why monsters from... He wonders if the border between reality and Pangania has shattered, and what he should do in this situation. His hand touches the artifact beside him. The protagonist notices something different about it. He reasons that if monsters from the game are roaming free, then maybe items obtained in the game can too. Michaela's sword and Hydreigon's soul emerge from his bag. The protagonist wonders how to use them, since in the game he just had to double-click. He remembers the system screen from before, and then he finally realizes something. There is no way he can fight these monsters, but he uses the function to synchronize with Randolph. The golden scale fragment has 24 hours remaining, in a city ravaged by destruction. A mother runs, carrying her child in her arms. The girl asks where her daddy is and why he is not coming, but her mother replies that he will be there soon. Suddenly, rubble begins to fall toward them. The child is thrown clear of the impact. Her mother is injured beneath the rubble, telling her daughter that she is fine and that she must get away quickly. An office worker approaches, asking if they are all right. The mother says yes, but asks her to take her daughter with her. The office worker closes her eyes in sorrow, but she apologizes and promises that she will definitely protect her daughter, but the woman turns around. She sees a gigantic monster right behind her. The massive jaw closes in, and the woman wonders if this is how she will die. But just before it can, a sword slams into the ground, defeating the monster. Randolph appears beside it a moment later. He slices the praying mantis into dozens of pieces. The woman blushes. She wonders if she is really alive, and who this man is. The mantis lunges toward her. The woman screams to warn Randolph, but the creature misses its strike. The secretary wonders what that was. A 9-headed dragon is behind him. Randolph climbs to the top of the monster's head. He tells the woman to stay put. The woman is surprised by this command. She starts to stammer, wondering if she is dreaming. Yunji runs toward her mother. The secretary looks over as her father approaches. Then the woman turns back. She sees Randolph defeating a dozen mantises with ease. Monsters appear simultaneously around the world, not just in Korea, taking lives and destroying civilizations. But it is not just monsters that appear. Alongside them come warriors who can cut down monsters and are immune to bullets. Armor materializes on a man's shoulder. He tells them not to worry, that he will protect them. The world is changing rapidly, and a man comments that they are idiots for wasting their golden scale pieces. Assassin draws his scale, thinking that it is now confirmed that reality and Pangania are merging. With the arrival of chaos, everyone becomes a competitor, and those who gather the most golden scale pieces will become the main players of this era. The ranking fixed for 2 years finally changes, and the highest score is an absurd 220 points. He wonders if Randolph is a Spectre. Spectre, also known as Ghost, was the first person to form an NPC caravan called the Expedition to the Demon Realm, the only one to get close to the game's true ending. Even though it ended in complete failure, he is undeniably the #1 player in Pangania. Since his strongest character would be summoned after losing his life, he must have been summoned in Pangania the moment the expedition failed. Even though his appearance and equipment have reset, talents from previous characters are carried over, and that is why he knows how he achieved such a high score. Randolph snaps out of his thoughts once again. He reflects on how monsters appear in the real world, just as players are summoned and take the form of their Pangania characters. The situation is becoming clearer. With his last character, he almost reached the end of the game with the expedition to the Demon Realm. But the mercenary NPCs he hired hindered his progress, and even his friendly companions betrayed him, as the interference was beyond his expectations. But what if all those interfering variables were summoned players, just like him? Players who did not want the ending to be reached, or who considered him a rival, and that might still be the case. If the border between reality and Pangania has collapsed, He cannot just log out and hide. To ensure his safety in this world, he needs to get stronger, fast. So he opens the castle door. Isabella asks if he has finished his communication with the stars. The protagonist confirms, saying he has come to fulfill his promise to her, and Isabella replies that this is great. Randolph says he has one condition, and the girl questions him. The maids quickly leave the room. The protagonist answers that he wants to go to the sanctuary. Isabella asks if he is insane, and Randolph thinks about his second main quest, to obtain the class he wants. A class that can only be obtained in this place. He tells her there is a star there. The mission the system provides is to obtain a class, with a reward that varies according to its rank, amidst a strange structure. Isabella walks through a sea of bodies. She wipes her face with her blood-stained dagger. Randolph reflects that it only took her a few minutes to finish all the guards. There is no better ally than her. A few hours earlier, he asks to be taken to the sanctuary. The scenes from the previous chapter repeat, along with his lie. Isabella questions him about the star, and Randolph explains that it is hidden. To remove his curse with the blessing of the stars, he needs that star. He reflects on how he found the fourth star by chance while leveling up his previous character. Isabella shouts that no one can enter the sanctuary. If they discover she secretly brought someone there, she could lose her life. But the protagonist replies that she herself can enter. Back in the present, he reflects that if he had failed to persuade her, his own head would be rolling on the ground. Then, he announces that they have arrived, and this is the Holy Land. The system notifies him that he has entered the desert sanctuary and received the secondary quest to explore the desert, but the area is above his level. His hidden trait, Giant's Demon Resistance, is protecting him. The protagonist thinks that without it, he would not have been able to enter. He thinks that if he sends Isabella ahead and just completes the secondary quest, the rewards should be good for a level 2 beginner. But the quest is not what matters right now, because this is the place. The quest to obtain a class in the sanctuary begins. It will only end when he acquires the class. The reward varies depending on the rank of the acquired class. Randolph reflects that he can obtain that specific class from the edge of the cliff above. Isabella looks down suspiciously. Then, her gaze shifts to the sanctuary's pillars, and she smiles to herself. She turns and says they took the wrong path, but Randolph grabs her shoulder and asks where she is going. She replies that the bridge is a trap, and the chains are designed to throw off anyone who tries to cross. Randolph asks if she is afraid. This infuriates Isabella even more. She says she is called the Snake Princess. Randolph replies that he did not know she was shy. The girl says the chances of it being a trap are high, and that her leg is cramping. The protagonist tells her to get on his back. Isabella blushes and yells, asking if he wants to die. Randolph says there is no time to waste. When dawn breaks and the lifeless warriors are found, she will be a suspect for not being there. So instead of wasting time out of fear, it is better to carry her and run. Isabella closes her eyes in anger, but she holds on to the protagonist, complaining about the damned cramp. Randolph speeds up, telling her to hold on tight. He then runs towards the pillars. Isabella yells, demanding to know where he is going because this is the wrong direction. There is no path there, but Randolph jumps anyway. The system activates his mutant trait, allowing him to see all secrets invisible to the human eye. Isabella asks if there is an invisible path, and Randolph replies that this is the real one. The princess thinks he knows a path that even she, as Feiselmer's second-in-command, does not. He also seems unaffected by the stellar difficulty, and many strange things are happening. Randolph looks back and says he did not know the second-in-command was afraid of heights. Isabella thinks he is acting completely relaxed in front of her, and this confidence does not come from strength alone. It is as if he is welcoming an old friend he has not seen in years. Isabella asks if they have met before. Randolph replies they have never been in the same place, and she asks what he means. Randolph explains that it means he has seen her, but she has never seen him. Suddenly, a storm of energy floods the place. It transforms into a plane with a pile of stones at its end. He realizes it is a domain barrier cast over the entire area, and only those who follow the designated path can see what is ahead, if his memory is correct. Something amidst the pile of stones begins to glow red, then the entire place begins to tremble, and 3 defender golems emerge before them. They prepare to fight him. Randolph thinks that this time the guardians are golems, and judging by the size of the rune, they are high rank. Fighting them would only mean defeat. He then asks if Isabella is over her cramp, and she tells him to shut up and watch. The 3 golems charge toward them. One prepares a strike, sending its fist flying toward Isabella. The girl simply breaks into a mocking smile. The stone golem's entire arm is severed, with just a raise of her hand. She says she will finish this quickly. She then dashes forward, using the other stones to propel herself. One of the golems is caught off guard. It is split in half by Isabella's advance. Randolph thinks she is an expert assassin. Her power is ridiculous, even for the character he created. All the golems are brutally torn in half by the girl's power. Randolph reflects that this is the power of a level 8. Suddenly, a system screen appears before him. He can acquire the Golem Creator class, and Randolph wonders if the system is recognizing Isabella's skills as his own. Summoner-type classes are rare in Pangania, making Golem Creator a very good class. In terms of ranking, it is at least high rank, but this is not the class he wants, so he declines, because the one who can grant him the class he wants is something else entirely. The dark energy flooding the area surprises Isabella. A figure emerges from the shadows above them. The ancestral king and master of the mountain, buried by the nameless star, rages at the invaders. Randolph says he has finally appeared, the great god who guards the star, the ancestral king Dramet, and so they both stand motionless before the serpent. The system warns that the player's level is much lower than the recommended level of 10. Randolph notes the crushing pressure, and he is the guardian of the sanctuary. Isabella asks if he came here expecting her to defeat the mountain guardian for him, and Randolph says that despite its appearance, it is actually quite gentle. He claims it would never attack him, but the snake immediately lunges forward. It strikes at Isabella. The girl falls to the ground. Randolph is completely surprised by this. Isabella glares at him with rage. Randolph comments that this is strange because he remembers it as a friendly creature that guided people, and the girl asks if this snake looks friendly to him. Dramet tells the sanctuary's challenger to defeat him and prove her worth, but Isabella replies that she is not the one challenging the sanctuary. The snake asks if she is not the one who defeated its sentinels and now denies her intention. Dramet swings its tail. It says that if she cannot prove herself, she will never leave here alive. Isabella dodges, repeating that she is not the challenger. She tells the Starbearer not to just stand there and to tell her what to do, while Randolph reflects that he does not remember defeating Dramet when he came through here before. Suddenly a memory floods his mind. The ancestral king Dramet is the mountain guardian who protects the star. According to its lore, it is an enchanted beast whose body grew and gained wisdom from the star's energy. He cleared this place using Wilhelm, a level 10, 5-star transcendent rank character. When he came to the sanctuary as Wilhelm, Dramet obediently guided him to the star. The reason was that he was qualified. In short, it attacks if it deems you weaker. Back then he was very strong. Now he wonders what to do, but he suddenly has a realization. Isabella continues to dodge the beast's attacks. Isabella falls to the ground. She reflects that because of the sanctuary's poison, her body is not moving right. Stepping into this place after listening to the Starbearer was a mistake, but the protagonist tells Dramet to stop. The snake's tail stops just above her head. It then pulls away. The snake turns to the protagonist. It wants to know how he knows its true name. Randolph replies that his master, Wilhelm, has returned. The snake withdraws its tail. It wants to know if he is Wilhelm. It then bursts into laughter. It comments that he is not even prepared to receive the star and is weaker than the sentinels. It tells him to listen. Wilhelm was a powerful human, a perfect transcendental being worthy of being its master. But he failed the expedition to the demon realm, and all his stars fell. This means he met a final death. So how dare an inferior creature like him even mention his master's name? Randolph is then hit by the blast, but he tells the serpent to honor the contract they made. Dramet asks how he knows about their contract. No one should know this. His contract with Dramet says that whoever obtains the Star of the Mountain, buried by the star, will learn the true name of the Mountain Guardian and become the new master. The Mountain Guardian obeys its master's commands, and the contract's contents cannot be revealed to anyone. If they are, the one who breaks the contract will lose their life to the curse. He mentioned this because he remembered the game's story. Fortunately, the rules still apply here. As expected, this is Randolph's body, so the curse does not affect him. Dramet demands to know who he really is. Randolph says that if he wants to know, he must lead the way, as the star will prove who he is. Dramet replies that the star shows no mercy to the unqualified. He will burst into flames the moment he gets near it. Randolph replies maybe, but they will not know until they see. He asks if Dramet is afraid the star will recognize him and reveal him as its true master. Dramet finds this funny. He says he is just a brat who looks like he could be destroyed in a single bite and wants to know what gives him the confidence to be so arrogant. He tells him to follow, as he will lead him to the star. He does not believe he is Wilhelm, but since he knows of the contract, killing him does not feel right. He would rather let the star dispose of him. With that, he moves ahead of the pair, as night falls over the area. Isabella asks if this is it, the place where the star is. Randolph confirms that it is, the object on the altar to be exact. The star rests on top of a pentagram. The girl asks if the skull is the star. Randolph replies that, to be precise, it is the face of Leah. When Leah, the twin goddess of Pangania, lost her life, her body split into 32 fragments and scattered across the continent. These 32 fragments are what people call the stars. They are used as catalysts to break the player's limits, allowing them to reach transcendence. The protagonist then focuses on the item. A torrent of fire erupts before him. Isabella screams, asking if he is all right. Dramut laughs, saying he warned him he would burn just for getting close. Even with all his confidence, the star rejected him, but the protagonist's figure stands within the flames. He thinks that Dramut is a truly annoying creature. This star only takes a player's life in one situation, when they skip Dramut using a bug. No matter how messy the process was, he still got past Dramut without any issues. The real problem is whether he can get the class he wants. If a player gets a star without a class, it grants them one. But he never even tried for one, and learned this by accident, so he calls upon the void before the star, reciting all 12 of his hidden talents, and the star speaks of him, the one who finally faces destruction. His mana is converted into stellar energy. He acquires the Star Piercer skill, and the star's blessing sub-skill. He also acquires the star effect, which adds 5 to all stats and will grant more power depending on the number of stars in his possession. Even after Transcendence, the star effect does not disappear. He obtains the class, Successor of the Stars. Randolph emerges completely transformed. He looks at the palm of his hand, which holds that energy. Isabella is impressed that he absorbed the star. The protagonist's hair continues to flow in the air. He calls out to the girl and asks what she wants to do once she is free from the curse. She replies that she wants to leave the desert and find the Durzian family line. Randolph replies that he will grant her the blessing to leave the desert, but on one condition. She must serve him for 1 year, and after that he will guarantee her freedom and help her find the Durzian family line. Isabella remembers the queen from her memories. She clenches her fists in anger. Randolph places a hand on her shoulder. He says that he is not the queen and that he does not lie. The girl is taken aback by this. She then bites her lip. She kneels and says that she will serve him. Randolph replies that she has made an excellent decision. Alias calls out to Dramut, wanting to know if the owner of the star is its master. The serpent becomes docile and says yes. The protagonist says that in that case, it must bow. The system begins to calculate the rewards, noting that he has reached 230 points and the Hall of Fame has changed. Several combat-oriented constellations are beginning to take an interest in his movements. From afar, the queen senses a presence that enrages her. She remarks that Isabella entered the sanctuary with the slaves she captured, and that they must capture them both immediately. In the normal world, in the middle of a city, a coffee shop is open at this time of day. Two twins question if Randolph is really Spectre, certain that even ignoring the first main quest, getting a class score higher than Gracia's is impossible unless you know the game inside and out. The veteran Ghost player who has played the game for 5 years, Spectre, has finally appeared. This will cause a huge commotion, and they can contact him before anyone else. A girl asks how, since they have searched for him for 5 years but never found him. The twins say Spectre was not even a real player before, and now that he is, he must have a form. Perhaps they should fish for him, since the secret auction opened as a reward for completing the second main quest. The girl replies that he will need a lot of items if he wants to place first in the third main quest. Fishing can be done at the secret auction where players trade items, so they post a high-quality item for a low price. And then they use a twin talisman ability to place a tracking skill on the buyer. New players who do not know about this often buy a cheap item at the auction and are tracked, robbed, and even killed. The red-haired one asks if someone like Spectre would fall for that, since if he really is Spectre, he would know every talisman option in the game. The girl begins to tremble, saying no, but that maybe he will fall for it. She laughs, saying he failed but still started the great expedition. Someone that decisive is not normal, and if he sees a great item, he might just buy it. Anyway, they need to make sure they find and invite him to their guild, while the twins call the police on her for being a stalker. Back at the sanctuary later, the rankings have changed, and one person is now out of the class acquisition ranking. Their rights to the second quest will be revoked. Assassinato wonders if he has 230 points, and what kind of class could give that many. It seems he will not be able to use the secret auction for a while. Not that it matters. With a sea of bodies around him, he decides that as long as he takes the life of anyone at the top of the rankings, he can climb back up. Later, Dramut presses on with the protagonists. The system announces that the subquest to explore the sanctuary is complete. He is the first to clear the sanctuary, and earns the achievement for it. He also obtains the teleportation book as a reward. Randolph reflects that the journey is not as uncomfortable as he thought, and he can escape the sanctuary and finish the exploration, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The system announces that he has leveled up. Finally, Randolph reaches level 3. It is much slower compared to normal characters, since the more talents he has, the more experience he needs, and the amount required is 10 times the normal. But his stats increased more because of it, so he cannot complain. After all, that is not what matters right now. The item he gets is a reward from the main quest. 2 extremely rare items for his current level. One of the rewards is the Cloak of Shadows. Activating its effect turns the wearer invisible, so it is basically a free stealth skill. Something rushes towards them right after. Dramut senses the presence immediately. He realizes there are two people heading their way. They reach them in just a few leaps. Dramut warns that he has detected intruders in the sanctuary. Isabella replies that it is probably the Queen's pursuit squad, and the protagonist says they have been in the sanctuary for a long time. The girl asks what he is going to do because the Queen will not come, but the squad has considerable strength. Even with the Mountain Guardian, she doubts he can handle all of them. The protagonist asks why they need to fight when Dramut is the Guardian. Isabella realizes what he means. She leaps away, saying they were counting on him. The snake has to do its job. The two run towards the sanctuary entrance, hearing the bandit's screams, and Isabella asks if he is sure it is okay to just leave. The protagonist asks if she did not say the Queen was not coming, so it will be fine. After all, there is no way the pursuit squad has arrived yet, and it is probably just an advance unit. If they stay there until the main force arrives and surrounds the sanctuary, they will not be able to escape, and those guys are after them anyway, so it is better to get out of there fast. Isabella asks if he is abandoning Dramut because he is useless, and the protagonist replies that Dramut cannot leave the sanctuary, so only they can escape. He reflects that to get out of there, they need to use the portal at the end of the desert. He removed Isabella's curse with the blessing of the stars, so she will have no problem using the portal, but the real problem was that the portal takes time to activate. Isabella says that as soon as they get past this, Randolph confirms they will be free once they are out of the desert, but the portal takes time to activate. Isabella asks how long, and the protagonist replies that it will be about 12 hours. As she can see, there is no suitable place to hide in the desert. The ideal scenario is for the pursuit squad to go straight to the sanctuary. With Dramut delaying them, they will gain some time until the squad realizes they have left. And with this time, he needs to communicate with the stars, thinking that this place is important, but he needs to check what is happening in the real world. He asks if he can trust the girl. She then draws her dagger. She says she will protect him. Randolph uses the logout function and tells her to be careful at the secret auction. The protagonist then wakes up in his bed. He thinks about how he is still not used to the feeling of returning to his true body. He then grabs the phone next to him. He notes that since there are no alerts or disaster warnings, it seems monsters have not appeared yet. The real world and Pangania are slowly merging, but there is still much he does not know. Soon there will be more monsters, and the players in the real world also worry him, since he needs to return periodically to gather information. A message appears on his phone. Kim Seoyeon asks how Hyung-nim has been. Inside a restaurant, a man on the phone says he already buys her food and clothes, and Seoyeon asks if he did not claim to be rich when he hit on her, only to act like a cheapskate now. She adds that there is no reason to meet since they have nothing to talk about. She hangs up the phone, telling him she is going to meet a friend, and that he should not call her anymore. She comments that he was an annoying idiot. Even though Hyun-myung was pathetic, at least he listened to her, so she should have stayed with him longer. But she dismisses the thought, since she would not have broken up with him if he had more money. Just then, Hyun-myung calls out to her. The girl says he is early and that she thought she would have to wait, but the protagonist asks why she called so suddenly. Seoyeon says that maybe it is because it has been a while, but she feels he has changed a little. Hyun-myung tells her to get to the point, as he has urgent things to do. The girl thinks he is acting unusually proud, and says that some things never change. He always comes as soon as she calls, even today. That is something she always liked about him. After they broke up, she realized how good he was. She kept thinking about him and regretted what she did. Hyun-myung remains silent. He wonders if he should order a drink, since she called him here but has not even paid for one. He then stands up, saying that if she is finished talking, he is leaving. Seoyeon yells for him to wait, saying she misses him, and that this is all because of what he said when they broke up. Hyun-myung asks if her new boyfriend knows she is meeting with him. He adds that if she is going to hit on multiple men, she should delete her photos from Instagram, not just change her profile picture. He walks away, but Seoyeon runs after him, begging him to please listen. The protagonist thinks about how strangely calm he is. He wonders why, and if Randolph's growth also affects him in the real world. A man shouts that he was just being nice, but she is calling him a stalker. He demands to know what the crowd is doing, while the girl tells the pervert to let her go. He pulls out a box cutter and lunges at her. The girl screams, shutting her eyes, but the man's hand is caught by Hyun-myung. The girl is stunned by this. The protagonist says this has gone far enough. The man asks why he is interfering and tells him to let go. He screams in pain, yelling that his wrist is going to break. Randolph realizes that even without using the broken scale fragment, he feels he can easily break a wrist, and that his real body has truly changed. So he throws the man away and asks if the woman is all right. She replies that she is alive thanks to him, and does not know how to thank him. But the protagonist analyzes her, and the girl questions why he is looking at her that way. Hyun-myung thinks that he was wondering why she looked familiar, and realizes she is that woman from before. But he turns away, saying she looks like someone he knows. The man tries to attack the protagonist from behind, but Hyun-myung dodges with extreme ease. He moves his hand toward the man's head and smashes him into the ground. The woman is surprised by this. Meanwhile, the protagonist restrains the pervert. Later, the police officers take him to their car. They inform Hyun-myung that he will need to go with them to the station. The woman says he was trying to help and that she was the one who reported the stalker, but the police say it was still an act of violence. Hyun-myung says he does not have time for this. The police say they cannot disobey the law, but the girl says that if he is a witness and gets dragged into trouble, they must take responsibility. She introduces herself as Kim Hana, a reporter for the CK network, and says that instead of tormenting an innocent person, they should speak with the real victim. She asks if they want this case to go public, as the police officers whisper among themselves. People in the crowd comment that she is very famous for saving the child on the day of the incident. The police officer says that the victim must accompany them. Hana thanks the protagonist for his help. She hands him her card, explaining she is a reporter dedicated to covering dimensional warriors. They are the people who appeared on the same day as the monsters, so that is what people call them. Hyun-myung wonders if she is talking about the players, thinking an interdimensional attack is easier to believe than a game becoming real. Seo-yeon runs up, asking if Hyun-myung is alright. She holds his arm, wanting to know if he was hurt, but Hana asks if she is his girlfriend. Hyun-myung pulls away, saying she is not, and adds that he does not have a business card. He gives his number to the girl, and Seo-yeon is devastated by this. Hana says that Park Hyun-myung is a nice name. She tells him to message her tomorrow for dinner or coffee, saying it is her treat, and Hyun-myung says he will not refuse. Seo-yeon asks how he could do this to her, and that he is just a nobody. On her way home, Hana's cell phone rings. She answers, and the caller asks if the great Kim is having a good weekend. But the executive director went on a trip and left her with a task, to interview the player Gracia. Hana asks if this is the person who saved America and is now treated as a hero, and why she has to handle such a big shot. But the main thing is that she is coming to Korea. Back in the game, a sea of bodies. Isabella pants, breathless from exhaustion. She remains on her feet even after taking the lives of 100 assassins. She stumbles slightly. One of the mercenaries tells her the queen orders her return. She must hand over the slave behind her, and they will pretend none of this ever happened. But the girl's dagger remains at the ready. In response, the assassins advance on her. Isabella stands her ground, analyzing everything she can do. Suddenly, an energy floods the area. The teleport is activated, and teleporting to the starting point is free. Isabella manages to stay on her feet thanks to his support. The protagonist tells her she held up well. Isabella asks if he is done communicating with the stars. One of the mercenaries tells the others not to stand around and to execute the traitor. The protagonist says that she kept her promise to protect him, so now he must keep his. He then releases the power in his hand. He uses the Star Piercer skill, which consumes all his energy, and has a total duration of 41 seconds. Those men begin to die with brutal speed. The protagonist tells her this is her moment of freedom, and she should enjoy it. Isabella says that this is the power of a Starbearer. He turns and tells her it is not too late, and that she can go back if she wants, because he will not stop her. The girl remains still and says no. A smile spreads across her face, because she will stay by his side. The curse of limits placed on Isabella is nullified, and a connection is established with the city on the central continent of Arcana. The system welcomes them to the Golden City. It offers a tip that this is a city where materialism has reached its peak, and without the wealth of a noble, one should avoid entering the inner districts. Merchants converse with civilians, while other people ride by in carriages. Isabella comments on how extravagant it is, and Randolph says this is the Golden City, where everything can be solved with gold, and that first, they need to earn some money. The girl says that if it is gold, he should not worry, because she brought 300 coins with her. Randolph sighs at this. He says it will last one night at most, and the girl is surprised. The girl says that is impossible, that 300 coins can buy 10 slaves, which is 10 times more than the price of a cleric. Randolph replies that prices here are different from the Kaltzman Desert. He then asks why he was even worried, since there is money scattered everywhere, and Isabella asks what he means. The protagonist points to a casino. The girl is surprised by his attitude, while the protagonist stands there in front of it. He tells her to relax, because he is very lucky, and so, the hidden trait Blessing of Gold is activated. The Golden City of Arcana is also known as the City of Pleasures. In Pangania, every minor city operates as an independent monarchy, and here, there is only one law. Only money decides everything, and the place where all the city's wealth is gathered is the Hudson Casino. A security guard apologizes to the gentleman. He says that anyone with a deposit of less than 10,000 gold cannot enter. Isabella asks why he did not mention the deposit, as they only have 100 gold left after bathing and buying clothes, but Randolph says they never had money to begin with. The security guard replies that if they do not make the deposit, they must leave, as they are disturbing other customers. Randolph says he has no gold, but he can offer collateral. He shows the Fairy Queen's tear in his hand. The security guard says that in that case they have a VIP client, and so everyone kneels before him. Isabella asks what he gave them, and Randolph replies that it was a Fairy Queen's tear talisman. It was one of the rewards he received when they visited the sanctuary, and it is worth at least 1 million gold. He is calm since it is just a deposit, and as soon as he wins some money, he can pay to get it back. A roulette wheel begins to spin rapidly. The ball lands on a red number, but then it rolls onto a black number. Everyone celebrates as he wins again. He started with 1,250 gold, but now he has already won over 1.5 million gold. Randolph thinks that as expected of the blessing of gold, there is no better trait when it comes to money. Isabella says they are rich, and the croupier addresses the gentleman. He says they will give him all his winnings, but he is banned from entering the Hudson Casino ever again. Every customer who copies his bets is winning, and it is becoming a serious problem. That is why the security guards are here to handle the situation. The croupier asks him to leave the premises. Isabella glares at the guards with intense rage, but the protagonist says he will leave. But he needs to speak with the owner of this place, and the croupier says that will not be possible. The protagonist tells him not to get the wrong idea, because he is not the one who will want the meeting. His boss is the one who will want to meet him, and the croupier should tell him about Randolph. In a private room, a man analyzes the Fairy Queen's tear with his hand of observation. He thinks that it is real, but wonders who could possibly possess it. It is carried only by the knights of the Fairy Queen, and fairies rarely leave their realm. A fairy knight is powerful enough to take the lives of at least 3 level 10 individuals. He has searched everywhere for one, but no one was selling it. To think an item like this would come to his casino on its own. A subordinate calls for Mr. Hudson and says that the man who left the talisman as collateral has asked to meet with him. He says he wants to meet with Hudson. A smile spreads across the casino owner's face. Later, they meet at a table with tea. Randolph remains impassive, looking at the table. Hudson wonders if this is the man who used the Fairy Queen's tear as collateral, noting that he does not seem strong. He heard the man wanted to speak with him, so he asks what he meant. Randolph says that was the only reason. He knew Hudson would want to meet him, so he had the message delivered. He needs the talisman he used as collateral. Hudson says Randolph must know he collects rare talismans, and that he was about to call him to negotiate its purchase. The protagonist says he will not refuse a good offer, and the man replies that this is great, and that he will now discuss the price. He offers a total of 2 million gold, which he considers a generous offer. Isabella questions this with astonishment, but the protagonist replies that he wants 20 million. Hudson says that is enough to buy a mansion in downtown Arcana, and no matter how rare a talisman is, it can only be used to reforge weapons. Even he cannot pay that price for a mere hobby item. Randolph replies that this only applies if it is a hobby item, but the Fairy Queen's tear is not a talisman to him. It is something he needs to enter the city council. The minimum qualification to enter the council is reaching level 10, but one must reach that level through their own strength. For a non-combatant like him, this is impossible. That is why he needs the fairy's tear. With it, he can use high-level equipment to compensate for his lack of combat attributes. And the reason a merchant who is just a casino owner wants to join the city council is to be recognized by the family of his fiancée, Serengeti. Randolph remembers the past and that name. The only daughter of Marquis Weiser of the Balran Kingdom. Known as the White Knight, she led 500 knights during the expedition to the Demon Kingdom. She sacrificed both her legs against the Demon King to save his life, and she was his right hand. Back then, he thought of her actions as nothing more than a dramatic event, because before coming to this world, Pangania was just a game. However, after Wilhelm came here, and as soon as he realized that NPCs can be players, he remembers Serengeti's words where she said that if she does not return from the expedition, he must deliver this for her. Serengeti's necklace has been obtained. The protagonist wonders what that was. A precious necklace contains a picture of Serengeti and one of her fiancé, Hudson. The protagonist wonders if this is part of the original content. In fact, she did not have a fiancé. Someone interfered with the character's preset, and the reason the game accepted it so naturally was because Hudson was a player like him, someone who assimilated into this world. Hudson then says he never told anyone about this and wants to know how he found out. Randolph thinks that Hudson must have arrived in this world long before him and that he needs to extract as much information as possible about this world and other players. So he raises his hand, saying he did not find out, but rather heard it. The stars told him. Hudson questions if he is claiming to be a stellar bearer. Randolph replies that he does not expect him to believe it, but he can give him whatever he wants, not just money. He must only accept one simple condition. Hudson asks what it is, and the protagonist tells him to tell his life story to the stars. He will decide whether to help or not after listening. However, he can only tell the truth, as the stars only favor the truth. Hudson holds his leg, questioning the request for his life story. Randolph reflects that it is a difficult decision. A stellar bearer is not someone normally found among NPCs, and revealing personal information could expose him. Hunters are NPCs who specialize in hunting players. They call them criminals, executing them on sight. Players have lost their lives countless times. Their infiltration methods vary so much that the only countermeasure is extreme caution. This is why Randolph does not want to reveal himself either, but he is certain that Hudson will accept his offer, because to him, Serengeti is not just a random NPC. The man stares at the photo of his fiancée. He answers that it is fine, and he will share his life story. He will start with Serengeti, since most of the things he wants are intertwined with her. She was a brave knight who took part in the expedition to the Demon Realm, led by the 8 heroes. The protagonist asks what he is talking about, since Wilhelm led the expedition, and Hudson confirms he was the most famous, but the expedition was conducted by all 8 heroes. There were internal conflicts among them, which led to the expedition's failure. Randolph asks if he knows who the 8 heroes are, and Hudson confirms he does, as they are legendary figures. Among them, the strongest, after Wilhelm, was Gracia. News reports wonder who the man riding a monster was, with the story being reported by Kim Hana. The secretary informs him that she has arranged Gracia's interview with reporter Hana, and he thanks her. His secretary asks if it is really necessary to go to Korea, as the government wants him to stay in the US in case of attacks. Gracia says no, he really has to go because he has a feeling that this man might be the friend he has been looking for. Randolph sits at the table, listening intently to the story. Back in Seoul, Korea. Randolph eats, feeling a bit nauseous. Hana asks if he does not like the meat, and he replies that something happened yesterday, and he is just tired. He thinks about how Hudson cried all night, but he still got the information on the heroes, which meant staying in the game the entire night. Randolph asks if this place is not expensive, because he does not know if it is right to eat for free. Hana replies that he got rid of her stalker last time, and honestly, this is not even close to enough. But something suddenly catches her attention. She asks if that woman back there is not the one who was with him before, and that she keeps looking over here. Randolph thinks it is a real coincidence, and the guy she is with looks like the one from Kim Seoyeon's social media. He wonders if his name is Young Jinwoo. Hana says that if he is uncomfortable, they can move to another table. Randolph replies that it is fine and she does not need to worry about her, since they really do not have any kind of relationship. But a voice calls out for Park Hyun-myung, wanting to know why he followed Seoyeon here. He not only kept bothering her after they broke up, now he is even stalking her. Randolph then asks about it, and Jinwoo says yes. He heard that last time he cried and begged Seoyeon to go to the coffee shop with him, and Randolph is confused. But then he understands what happened. He looks at Seoyeon, who is smiling. Jinwoo says that if he keeps following Seoyeon, he will kill him. Hana shouts that she has been quiet, but the more she listens, the more ridiculous it gets. And Jinwoo asks if she is one of his rental girlfriends. Everyone starts to look at the fight, with Jinwoo insulting the girl and Hana defending herself. But Jinwoo throws money in her face, asking if it is not enough. He then asks why the 2 filthy people do not go somewhere else. But Hana slaps him across the face, calling him a fucking asshole. Jinwoo says she hit first. He tells her to watch her teeth, preparing to strike. The blow closes in on the girl, but he trips and falls to the ground. The protagonist says that's enough, and that Jinwoo doesn't look so innocent himself. Jinwoo turns to him, irritated, but Randolph's hand is already on his face, slamming his head into the floor and repeating that's enough. Jinwoo wonders what is happening and why this guy is so strong. Seoyeon yells that he is embarrassing her and tells him to get up. Randolph suggests they end the conversation right there. He says Jinwoo started the fight and should make this easier for everyone, while Jinwoo thinks this bastard is humiliating him, but he messed with the wrong person, so he pulls a scale from his pocket. It suddenly begins to glow, illuminating the entire room and surprising the protagonist. Randolph asks what this light is. The people around them are also surprised, shouting that he is a dimensional warrior and that he actually transformed. Jinwoo then throws him to the ground and tells him to try talking now, making the protagonist land hard on his back. Hana screams the protagonist's name. Randolph reflects that he never imagined Jinwoo was a player, but he wonders why he doesn't seem to care. He definitely saw the transformation, but the attack didn't hurt at all. His Great Sage trait activates. Jinwoo says he only let his guard down for a second, and Randolph dared to make him look like a fool. Randolph thinks that he only has 1 class and has only reached level 4, and on the Pangenia scale, each level requires a greater amount of XP. Additionally, more experience is required depending on how many talents a player possesses, so they become stronger but level up more slowly. And of course, Jung Jinwoo is one of those with little talent, and the reason his level is so low is simple. He has never fought. He is a beginner player who has been running non-stop from day 1 until now. After a few lucky breaks, he survived the main quest, and with another incredible stroke of luck, he obtained what is considered a good class. And as a reward for achieving a high rank, he became able to log out. Randolph can tell without even looking. Not everyone starts out with his kind of abilities. Seoyeon says that's enough and they should leave because people are watching, but Jinwoo replies that he is no longer in the mood. He turns and tells Randolph he only survived because of Seoyeon, and that he should never come near her again. The protagonist thinks that Jinwoo is showing everyone he is a player, wasting the golden scale's power as if it were nothing. Hana asks if he is okay, and the protagonist says he is. He tells her to let it go since they were the ones who hit first. It was no big deal, and they should just finish their meal. But a strange sensation washes over his body. An earthquake erupts, startling everyone around them. The protagonist thinks it cannot be. The walls around him are shattering. The collapse is starting again, and monsters are about to appear. Hana says they need to run, but Randolph covers her mouth, telling her to wait a bit. Everyone flees from the monsters savagely attacking them, but they are not actually trying to bite. Randolph thinks they are lucky that putrid worms appeared, since they only feed on nearby corpses, and as long as no one attacks them, that other thing will not appear. But some of them surround Jiwoo and Seoyeon. She screams at her boyfriend to do something. He readies his spear. Randolph yells for him not to attack, but it is already too late for that idiot. Jinwoo wonders how he defeated it in a single strike. He realizes he is stronger than he thought, screaming that he will wipe out all these damned monsters. Everyone shouts that this is to be expected from a dimensional warrior, and that they should flee that way. Jinwoo thinks he is not even afraid, that these things are nothing. Randolph tells Hana to get as far away as she can. Far away from that idiot who is fighting, as far away as possible. Jinwoo wonders where this mist came from. His vision is blocked. Suddenly, a hand reaches for him, covering his eyes a moment later. An observer lurks behind him. It wants to know who it was, who took the lives of its children. An elite monster, the putrid Maba, appears. The recommended party is 20 people at level 6. The monster orders him to kill them all. And just like that, Jinwoo is possessed by the creature. One of the men on the ground coughs, wondering what that was. He cannot see anything through the mist, but Jinwoo is already on his tail. He then points the spear at him. He thrusts the spear, telling him to go to hell. Due to the effect of the putrid worm blood, he sees the man as a monster. The spear closes in on the man, who wonders what is happening. Blood sprays across the ground, but it was Randolph, who blocked the attack by severing his arm. Jinwoo looks to the side, panicking. Randolph says he did not want to get involved, but that he has gone too far. He orders him to come and face him, right now. The putrid worms begin to stir. They envelop Jinwoo in a cocoon while laughing. A creature bursts out screaming that this is not bad at all. The putrid Mamba says there is a human who looks delicious. The protagonist simply stares at the creature. Elsewhere, Hana screams for Hyun Myung, asking where he is. She sees nothing in the fog before her. She calls out his name one last time. Randolph charges at the creature, destroying everything in his path. He dodges the blows, thinking that while the fog let him transform unseen, it does not guarantee an easy victory. If he did not know its attack patterns, he would already be torn to shreds. The Mamba says it is strange, as his physical abilities are not impressive, yet he is dodging everything. He moves as if he already knows its attacks. Randolph moves his sword into a thrust, but the monster says it is useless. But Randolph slices through all of its tentacles. He thinks that the putrid Mamba's next attack is coming right as he turns. An explosion of blood erupts before him. Randolph then grabs a table. He uses it to shield himself from the blast, thinking that if it touches him, he gets a debuff. The table blocks all the blood, but the protagonist smashes it to pieces immediately after, and keeps advancing, breathing heavily. The Mamba says it did not expect him to dodge even that. He has an impressive evasion skill. However, in the end, his attacks cannot reach it, so his evasion does not matter. Randolph tells it to relax, because he will soon put a sword through its forehead, and so he summons the talisman of the Fairy Queen's tear. He equips the boots of Hermes. He is below the requirements, but the tear allows him to use them. He also equips Miquella's armor and helmet, and now he can use the Miquella set ability, Celestial Dragonoid, and the agility from the boots of Hermes. The protagonist thinks it was a good thing he bought this at the secret auction, but he is reluctant, as he should only use the tear when absolutely necessary. The boots of Hermes imitate the feet of a god, and wearing them allows one to run as fast as the wind. Randolph charges forward, thinking that he will keep his word nonetheless. In a single step, he is already face to face with a monster. A tentacle flies toward his face, but the protagonist easily dodges it. The ground caves in around his foot, but Randolph keeps moving forward without stopping. He moves so fast he even leaves a trail. He surprises the monster by appearing behind it. It turns, calling the protagonist a bastard, shooting the spines from its back, but Randolph deflects them with extreme ease. He then moves his sword. He glares coldly at the monster from behind his helm. This time, the creature's tail moves. It strikes, forcing Randolph to retreat. He spits a little blood from the impact, but he still defends himself with his arms. The system activates the ability of Miquella's set, transforming him into a celestial dragonkin. The monster says he still has tricks up his sleeve. As it gathers blood in its mouth, it shoots at the protagonist, calling him a damned rat. Randolph reflects that this is the putrid Mamba's last attack pattern, and if he can just withstand this. The blood closes in on his boots. The Mamba says there is no way he can withstand this, and that rat should lose his life in its bloody cyclone. From within, energy begins to gather. The protagonist releases the effect of his clothes, and a gale is created. The Mamba says he is using the wind to blow away its poison mist. The putrid Mamba has 4 patterns, and after using them all, it enters a brief state of confusion, unable to act. But when the confusion passes, the next cycle is enhanced. Randolph advances, saying this means it is his only chance to win. The putrid Mamba asks him to wait a moment, before losing its head to the blow. Randolph drives the sword into it, saying he told it that he would stick a sword in its forehead when all was said and done. The system congratulates him for defeating the Black Mamba alone. Thanks to this, his golden scale now has a remaining time of almost 43 hours. Everyone shouts that the mist is finally disappearing. The darkness recedes for a moment, and the protagonist obtains a lucky die as his synchronization reaches 9.1%. Hana wonders if it is over and what just happened. She sees Randolph in the mist, wearing a hood. He covers his face right after. The girl recognizes him as the man from before. She excuses herself and says he is the one who saved her last time and that he must remember her. Hyun-myung thinks that she is safe as the cloak's effect activates. Hana asks to speak with him for just a moment, but the protagonist vanishes. She is surprised by this. She sees the wreckage on the ground. Suddenly, the protagonist approaches. He calls for Hana, and the girl turns around. The protagonist says he finally found her and got separated because of all the chaos. He asks if she is hurt, but Hana says she is fine. She notices something different about the protagonist. His finger is bleeding as he says he never thought things would end up like this. Hana asks if he is hurt. The protagonist says it seems monster blood splattered on him and thinks he did not even notice it. The girl comments that his clothes are fine, but his nails are caked with blood. She remembers he was also extremely calm when the monsters appeared and that he must know what they were. The protagonist does not know how to answer, but he says things got so chaotic that he just said what came to mind. Hana thinks he is very suspicious, acting as if this is nothing and appearing right after the man who saved her disappeared. The next day arrives. News reports say that a few days after the first invasion, there was a report of another. Some warriors warn that these attacks will continue to happen and express their opinion that a long-term operation with the government is necessary. As a consequence, countless civilians lock themselves in their homes and the streets become empty. In response, the citizens show their dissatisfaction with the government, which may have led to the large number of victims in the second incident. Government officials watch from a table. A bald man comments that they were carefree, but now they are making this whole mess. Another man replies that at the time, people who were not directly affected could not feel the gravity of the situation. A woman says it may have been something beyond the ordinary, so the government probably tried to keep the situation calm at first. Finally, their boss says that with this incident, everyone must have realized that an invasion can happen again, and this is the perfect time to declare the emergence of their alliance. Taewoo continues that the other alliances are probably thinking the same thing, so they need to hurry and recruit talent, and the woman says they are checking the videos. They are CCTV images, so it is hard to see clearly, but if he took down the putrid Mamba alone, this man must be Randolph, who came in first place. Another comments that they said Randolph just finished mission 2, so he is at most level 4 or 5, and should not even be able to use the boots. It is possible that he used a talisman, and he is someone they need. Right after the specter disappeared, this man appeared. They are not sure, but it is possible they are the same person. They cannot trust the other player alliances and need to bring him to their side to stop the rift. Back in the game, Hudson is shocked. He asks if he is saying that he used the tear of the Fairy Queen. Randolph confirms, and Hudson questions why he would do that and if he was not going to give it to him. Randolph replies that he would help him, but never said he would give him the tear. He says he does not need a talisman to achieve his goal, and only got rid of it so Hudson would not cling to false hope, thinking he cannot admit he needed it. Hudson asks if he means there is another way, and the protagonist comments that his face says he does not trust him, but he tells him to follow, saying he will give him a reason to trust. They approach a new place, Arcana's underground dungeon, the sewers. They continue to explore the area. Hudson questions why it had to be the sewers. Randolph replies that it is to remove his distrust, and also because he wants to create an anchor point before they go to the place that will grant his wish. The teleportation book he got from Dramut was convenient, but having to increase the exploration rate every time was annoying. He wanted to explore all of Arcana, but that is impossible with the time he has, so they will have to be satisfied with just the sewer dungeon. Hudson shouts that it is too dangerous to do this with only 3 people. The boss that lives here is a mutant monster rat that requires at least 6 level 8 people to defeat. Randolph stops in his tracks. He says that he knows. The dungeon boss appears and starts walking toward them. The rat's reddish eyes lock onto its target. Then it digs its claws into the ground and lunges forward with extreme speed. Randolph continues to stare ahead without saying a word. Hudson thinks that the mutant monster rat is a monster that uses its speed as a weapon, and normally 6 people would form a formation, but they are completely unprepared. He wonders what Randolph was thinking to do something so idiotic. Randolph tells Isabella to move, and she draws her dagger. She moves toward the 10 o'clock position. The rat does not understand what is happening. Randolph thinks that if you know its pattern, its speed does not matter. Of course, this is only possible because Isabella is proficient in combat, and her level is completely different from that of ordinary characters. Hudson breaks out in a cold sweat. Then the protagonist calls out to him. He says that he will keep his promise no matter the cost, and that Hudson should not doubt him. If he says it can be done, then it can be done. Hudson is stunned by this. The secretary informs Mr. Jang that he checked all the nearby CCTV footage, but there are no traces. Jang replies that no one knows anything. This is like a horror story. The secretary asks if they should go meet Mr. Jung Jinwoo again, but Jang refuses, saying the man has gone mad. He is in shock from having both his arms torn off, and going back there would just be a waste of time. Jinwoo stares at the wall in a state of pure shock. The secretary asks about Kim Hana, since she seemed to know something. Jang asks if he is suggesting they invade the broadcast station. Besides, Gracia is protecting Kim Hana, which is causing an uproar among all the players in Korea. They heard that Person is conducting a face-to-face interview with Hana. The two of them face each other under the spotlights. Gracia introduces himself to her. Hana says it is an honor to meet him. The secretary asks if it was love at first sight, and Jang tells him not to poke a beehive without reason. He reflects that with the Spectre's disappearance, Gracia is the strongest player, yet that monster came to Korea just for an interview with a common reporter, and the best thing to do is stay away. If they make him angry, the alliance could be destroyed. Elsewhere, a man asks if it is over yet. The victim asks what he is doing, since real-world PK is supposed to be forbidden. Gracia told them to prepare for an invasion, so this is forbidden in the real world. But the man grabs his face, telling him it is all right. He takes the young man's life, telling him to ask Gracia for help. Blood spreads across the floor. Meanwhile, Murder walks away from the scene. The ranking updates, and he is now a ranker who has gained the right to use the secret auction. Murder thinks that Randolph is definitely the Spectre. If he is not, there is no way to explain the score. If it is him, he will challenge the main quest immediately without hesitation, and by waiting in that place, he will meet him soon, and he will lose his life at his hands. Back in the world of Pangenia, a hydreigon slams its claw into the ground. It stands there imposingly. Smoke then envelops two people. Randolph thinks he was lucky, and his main objective is just to create an anchor point in the sewer dungeon. The lifeless monster lies on the ground. He approaches and pulls a crystal from inside it. It is a mutant rat core, which causes mutations in beasts or can be used as a material for tools. He never imagined he would get a material to evolve the hydreigon. He asks if Hudson handled things at the casino, and he confirms that he took care of everything. It is a shame to give up the casino, but there is no choice if they will be away for a long time, and if it is to marry Serengeti, it is not even worth the worry. Besides, the people there would never leave the casino in peace without him, so he decided to trust and follow the Starbearer. Above all, it was impressive when the woman named Isabella took the rat's life alone. But it was thanks to his actions, a man who acts as if he can see through everything. There is no doubt he is an extraordinary man, and if he misses this chance, he does not know when he will get another opportunity like it. A smile spreads across Randolph's face as he asks if that is really so. So he will no longer worry about money, thinking he made a great decision and can now focus only on reaching level 10 as they walk. Hudson asks where they are going, saying he does not remember being told. They are going to the masterpiece that will grant his wish. He thinks of the masterpiece that will grant Hudson's wish, and the place where the third quest begins, the Tower of Spirits. In the midst of a vast forest, the protagonist and his group begin to explore the area. Hudson says that to his untrained eyes, it looks just like a normal forest. Randolph immediately denies this. He says this is the entrance to the Tower of Spirits, the Basrock forest where the spirit tree grows. A spirit tree is where spirits are born, and it opens the path to that realm. Entering this path at dusk is the only way to get to the Tower of Spirits. However, he places his hand on the tree. He notices it has been dead for a long time. Not just the tree, but the entire forest is lifeless, and it has been a long time since a new spirit was born here. It is not a good method, but he has no choice, so he draws his sword. Hudson asks what he is trying to do. The protagonist then readies his hand. He moves toward the tree with a spin. The other two in his group are surprised by this, but the tree is cut in half. A storm of wind begins to rush through the forest. Hudson asks if it is all right to cut the tree like that, but a light rises high above them all. The protagonist then moves his hand. He fires a projectile toward the light. Isabella draws her dagger. She defends Hudson from an attack, but her hand is wounded in the process. A man says he did not imagine she would block it, and that it is quite interesting. The level 9 High Dryad calls her a human woman. Hudson says there is no way that is a High Dryad. The Dryad says he thought they were just lost travelers and was going to show them mercy by letting them pass, but they dared to cut down the spirit tree. So it seems that humans have lost their fear. Isabella reports there are at least 50 of them. If they all attack at once, they will not stand a chance, and in the worst case scenario, she must ensure the Starbearer escapes. Randolph tells him not to be angry with someone else when he is the one who cut the tree. If he had not done that, they would not have appeared, and the Dryad says he is insane. Randolph tells him to come down as he wants to talk, but the Dryad refuses and fires an arrow at him. The protagonist asks if he wants to just sit there while the forest dies. That Dryad is completely surprised. The protagonist says he will bring this forest back to life. He sees no spirit that could bring it life, and he knows better than anyone that if no new spirits are born, the forest will die. He must open the gate to the spirit tower, because he will give this forest a spirit, but the Dryad calls it nonsense. saying the tower is only for the chosen. He then asks if he is saying a wretch like him could enter. Randolph thinks that it is impossible. In the first place, to enter the tower, one needs a relevant talent and must complete missions. Only after waiting for several coincidences to align can one overcome the low odds and enter, and at Randolph's current level, it is something he cannot even dream of. But that would only be if he were an ordinary character, so he tells him to shut up and open the gate. The Dryad asks if he is saying he will save the forest. He is a liar, and they must take his life for destroying the tree. He prepares for combat, while Hudson and Isabella are startled. The High Druid remains silent, but he raises a hand and says, "That is enough." All the other druids are surprised by his decision. The High Druid then jumps down to the ground. He comes face to face with Randolph, telling him to keep his word. The protagonist says that he always keeps his promises and will bring the spirits back to the forest. The High Druid says he does not expect him to succeed, and simply thought it would not be too late to take his life if he fails. He then tells them to follow him to the tower. As the day passes, they arrive at a stone tower. The stacked stones remain immobile. The druid explains that the life force is now draining away, and the only way to open the path to the tower is by using the remains of an idle spirit. He tells him to keep in mind that if he fails, he will immediately become fertilizer, and Randolph asks what happens if he succeeds. The druid says he will give a fitting reward for his achievement. The side quest to bring the spirits back to the forest activates. The druid tells him to prepare himself starting now. He is going to open the portal. A massive light envelops the area and engulfs the party. Hudson covers his face with a hand, but he keeps his eyes open. The system says access has been granted only to those who are permitted, and so they all stand within the space. Hudson asks where they are. He asks if they are in the spirit tower, but Randolph denies it, explaining this is the inside of the portal, and they can only enter the tower with permission. Hudson asks whose permission, but then he notices something in front of him, seeing a spirit standing there. Hudson asks if he should capture the spirit because it is kind of cute, but Randolph tells him not to. He then notices something about it. The spirit says nothing as it analyzes him, but it remarks that it senses a druid's aura and must permit him to ascend the tower. It asks if those are companions he can entrust with his life and his back. It will allow them to enter the tower with him, however. The path will only be revealed once each of them passes through the tower's gates. Isabella says she will be right back. Hudson says his body is disappearing. The spirit explains that time in the tower flows differently than in reality, so they can climb it without worry, and it wishes him good luck. The third main mission is to climb the tower, and the hint is to first use the Tower of Challenges found in every city. Randolph finds himself before an immense black portal. He thinks that it has been a long time, but he wonders what kind of gate this is. To enter the Spirit Tower, one must pass through a gate based on elemental affinity. Isabella, for example, has a wind affinity and faces a test of wind. Hudson, who has an affinity for water, gets the water gate. Each gate created this way presents the most suitable challenge for the climber, but he has never seen this attribute before, and it might be an effect of him having all affinities. Suddenly, the gate opens its eyes. It remarks that a being with an affinity for all elements truly exists, and even possesses those that cannot coexist. Perhaps it is thanks to the void element that encompasses all others, yet there is much more to it than that. This is true chaos, and the name of the gate he must pass is the Gate of Chaos. It tells the traveler to be careful. If he is swallowed by chaos, he will never return. In a tidy room, the protagonist analyzes everything before him. For the last 5 years, he played almost every day without tiring. It was no exaggeration to say he played Pangania more than anyone. He knows more about this world's secrets than anyone else. And yet, there are still countless things in Pangania he does not know. A game with insane difficulty that makes completion seem impossible, but it always ignites a burning desire to face the challenge. Its mysteries were firmly established, and that is why he loves this game. He wonders if this is the first time the gate has ever been opened. He will be the first to complete it, drawing his sword. A white-haired figure stands before him. It only turns its head slightly, revealing himself to be Wilhelm. The protagonist wonders why the character he created is appearing as a challenge. Wilhelm's blade closes in on his neck, but the protagonist narrowly dodges. He thinks that regardless of why he is here, this means he has to fight this guy, the one who used to be number one. The protagonist's sword flies from his hand as he tries to strike. He thinks this was designed to be unbeatable. Wilhelm prepares his counterattack. He finishes the protagonist, who thinks this is an insane game. His sword plunges into the ground. Randolph manages to survive by activating Mikkola's armor. He thinks that the sword failed to cut clean through his arm. This means its attack power is on the same level as his defense. He looks like Wilhelm, but his stats are close to Randolph's, if it only copied his appearance. So the protagonist activates Gale, thinking there is no reason to be afraid. Wilhelm slams hard into the nearest wall. He gets up once more with no apparent injuries, but he stares coldly forward. He sees Randolph advancing, sword ready to thrust. Wilhelm begins to walk forward. He lands a kick as he dodges the thrust. His head is knocked to the side. He asks if he came to reclaim his past glory. Randolph is surprised by this. Wilhelm advances with his sword, asking if that is even possible. The protagonist moves his hand. He grabs his hair and asks what the hell he is talking about. He then moves his head with his own strength and separates his head from his body with the sword. Wilhelm goes lifeless immediately after. His head rolls across the floor. The protagonist pulls out a health potion. He recovers from the damage quickly. Another drop falls from his mouth. He says it is a good thing he bought some potions with the money from the Hudson Casino, but several clones of Wilhelm begin to form around him. The protagonist says he would be regretting it immensely if he had not brought them back in the real world, inside a building. Hannah announces that they will end the interview there. She says it must have been very tiring for him to come all this way, and she thanks Mr. Gracia for his time. He says it is no problem, and now that the interview is over and they are not recording, he has a personal question. Hannah asks about it, and Gracia says it is simple. The man mentioned in the article she wrote. She must tell him everything she knows about that man and what she saw in detail. Back in the game world, several Wilhelms lie scattered on the floor. Randolph remains standing, his Gale active. He stands firm with his sword in hand, but he is breathing heavily. He wonders how much time has passed, having fought at least 100 of them. The good part is that they are no longer being summoned, and since he cannot see anything above, this is probably the last floor. He is out of potions, and it would be good if a clear message appeared. One of Wilhelm's bodies begins to vanish from the floor. This surprises Randolph immediately. The shadows on the floor form a smile. It asks if the chaos failed, and says they have taken a liking to him, as they never imagined he would get this far. Randolph addresses the spirit of chaos, saying that its appearance must mean he has cleared the tower. The spirit forms a smile, questioning this, but it bursts into hysterical laughter. It says that this is ridiculous, and that it thought someone like him could actually clear the tower. The challenge has not even begun. Beyond that barrier is where the real challenge begins. He is already exhausted just from clearing this part, and it asks if he really thinks he can finish. This place was never meant to be a challenge that could be cleared. Beyond this point, hundreds or thousands of the illusions he fought are waiting for him. He should just give up, because he will not clear the tower. But even the spirit is surprised. Randolph walks forward without a care, and the spirits begin to beg for contracts. They say that way he will gain tens of thousands of benefits. The Tower of Spirits gives a reward based on the challenge entered. Clearing the fire trial grants a fire spirit. The wind trial grants a spirit of the same type, and upon hatching they can form a contract. The challenge he entered was the Chaos Trial, and he thought the reward for clearing it would be a Chaos Spirit Egg. Spirit eggs are rare, and this would be the first in history, so the reward must be of the highest tier, but they want a contract before he even finishes. If that is the case, then beyond this door lies a reward even better than the Chaos Egg, and so he steps inside. He says they clearly told him there were more of the things he fought on the other side. It will certainly be difficult, since he used all his potions fighting, but he has memorized their patterns to the point of nausea. Now he does not need potions or anything like them. He will dodge the patterns he learned thousands of times, and by doing so, he will clear the tower. The spirit is perplexed by this, saying it did not expect him to challenge the tower over something so ridiculous. He really is the kind of idiot they like. Back at the entrance portal of the tower, the protagonist wonders what this place is. The system completes the main quest and begins to calculate the results. The spirit says he really did manage to climb the tower, and it offers its most sincere congratulations. His friends are still alive too. The protagonist asks if that whole speech about the real challenge was a lie, and the spirit confirms it. If he had made a contract, he would have been trapped for the rest of his life. The protagonist sheathes his sword, saying they are good at lying. The spirit comments that they have always enjoyed it. However, he must have received a hint when he cleared the challenge, so that was that. In any case, he should take his well-earned reward, and it tells him to hold out his hand. The protagonist has cleared the Tower of Chaos, and will now receive the rewards for this achievement. Randolph thinks that if it ends just like this, with nothing hidden, then the reward must be a Chaos Spirit Egg. He obtains the egg, which begins to interfere with everything, surprising even the protagonist himself. That mass of darkness has a hidden celestial trait. Feathers then begin to envelop the egg. The system's text becomes garbled because of it, changing to show he has obtained a celestial spirit egg. Randolph looks down in surprise, wondering what that was. It is said that the unknown egg fell from the celestial realm and lies at the end of the light of darkness and chaos. Randolph thinks celestial refers to the celestial race that lives in the celestial realm, and finding this egg is proof that he is one of them. He wonders if it is connected to his hidden trait, and perhaps it is not just a coincidence in name but a true characteristic. He asks if the spirit knows, but it denies it. However, even the spirit kings are showing interest. The spirit kings are some of the strongest beings in existence and the main mediators that make up Pangenia. If even they show interest, it means the egg has enormous value. He is curious to know what kind of egg it is, but there is no way to find out now. now. He will have to hatch it later to discover the truth. The system says it was an incomparable feat that no one has achieved before, and his score was 240 points. His rewards are enhanced several times over because of the excited constellations. The protagonist thinks they are the ones from the time of the 100 stars. Some constellations also show interest in the sanctuary of Dramut. But to think that 5 of these powerful beings have taken an interest. They are beings who play important roles in the world of Pangania, and it is always beneficial to be on their good side, as they assign special quests and improve rewards. In the game's lore, he heard they enjoy stories told by humans, and he thinks this means they liked the challenge of chaos he displayed. The level of the rewards is being transcended due to the constellations. He can choose 2 rewards from the 20 listed below. Sometime later, Isabella and Hudson clear the tower and emerge. Isabella receives a wind spirit egg, and Hudson receives a water spirit egg. The number of spirits received as a reward is decided randomly. By a stroke of luck, Isabella gets 2 and decides to fulfill her promise to the Dryads. If they one day hatch the wind spirit and release it in the forest, the Bazrock forest can return to life. In addition, as a token of their gratitude, they give them the best elixir, the mandrake. It is made from a 1,000-year-old herb that has absorbed the forest's vitality. Naturally, the Dryads. Naturally, they give it to Isabella, who becomes even stronger. The quest is complete. He earns the title Friend of the Dryads and a meeting point in the forest. He also takes first place in the tower climbing rankings. He obtains the privilege of the Guardian Wall, and his grade is improved. Using the cart Hydrogen, the group advances once more. Randolph faces the Guardian Wall that protects his disconnected body from danger, and a notification appears. The protagonist thinks it is a great relief. When he enters Pangania, it protects Park Hyun-myung in reality. When he returns to reality, it protects Randolph. Now there are 72 hours left for the broken fragment of the Golden Scale. Thinking about the future, the more time he has, the better. Hudson calls out to the Starbearer. He thanks him, saying he never expected to get a spirit egg. He wants to hatch it as soon as possible, since it should be able to solve his problem. Randolph replies that the path from 9 to 10 is difficult alone, but if he borrows the power of a spirit, it should be possible. He suggests they stop by a place first, and Hudson agrees, saying he will always follow him. Randolph thanks him. Now, in another city, Hudson says that the one thing he needed was in this cursed place, and he screams hysterically. Isabella is confused, and Randolph tells him to be quiet. The girl asks where they are going to make him act this way, and the protagonist says it is the territory of Marquis Visor. It is where Hudson's fiancée lives. Hudson asks why they are here, since he is not yet qualified to ask for Serengeti's hand in marriage, but Randolph says he is not telling him to do it today. They are here because he has something to ask Serengeti in person. Along the way, windows are broken. An alley is filled with beggars. On the other side, people are praying to a large stone monument in the middle of it all. Isabella says it looks like they are in the middle of a funeral. She asks if he knows any of the names, but Randolph says no, but he knows why they ended up this way. He thinks about how the 500 names engraved on the tombstone all belong to the knights who followed him on the great expedition. He never found it strange not knowing their names, and never even tried to remember. They were not important named NPCs. Even though they fought for him, it was all under the pretext that they were just part of the game. A woman falls to the ground, cursing Wilhelm and demanding he return her son. He said he would come back and that she did not need to worry. Randolph approaches her, and Isabella asks where he is going. The mother screams, asking how he could, but suddenly her consciousness fades. She collapses, falling right after, but she is caught by Randolph. Everyone in the village shouts that Grandma May has fainted. Isabella approaches the Starbearer, but Randolph just says they will go to the relief station, at the station of the goddess's church. Hudson comments that there are many patients here, but there are very few people at the relief station to help everyone, and he wonders how a major city can be so short-staffed. It seems there is a problem with how it is being managed. A priest asks if they are the outsiders who brought Sister May. He says they could have just walked by, but they are very kind. Hudson just agrees, seeing the priest's radiance, but then he gets close to his face. He comments that to operate the relief station, they are collecting donations from visitors, and if they could donate 50 gold, it would be a great help. Randolph says that a relief station run by the church should be funded by the city's treasury. And even though gold moves through Arcana daily, it makes no sense to demand a normal citizen's monthly salary as a fee. The priest says they have no choice. Andrew says that from now on, they will accept donations to operate the relief shelter. Randolph says that the priest is not that kind of person. Andrew is a high-ranking priest of the Church of the Goddesses who serves the twins Leah and Pina. He is an NPC who gives honor quests, a factor in class creation, and he is devout, wise, and upright. And that same Andrew is secretly accepting personal donations. The poorly maintained buildings he saw on the way there, the vagrants on the streets, and even this unmanaged relief post are all strange because this city is supposed to be rich. He wonders what the hell happened in this city. A table is filled with the highest quality drinks. A secretary tries to stop him, saying that his lord has drunk too much. but he throws the bottle toward the butler. He orders him to shut his mouth now. Marquis Weiser orders him to bring more alcohol. Randolph assesses the situation for a moment. He says he needs to speak with the priest in person, and the man is surprised. The man says a lot of people are waiting to be treated by the priest, but Randolph calls for Hudson, who then pulls out a bag of gold. He says it is a donation of 50,000 gold. He says he will double it if they can see him now. The man's eyes light up at the money. He shouts that he will escort the brother right away, in a room filled with books. Andrew introduces himself to the protagonists. He asks them to sit down to talk, and Randolph agrees. The priest says he heard about him making a generous donation to his relief post. Randolph says he heard they charge 50 gold for a donation, and figured a normal amount would not be enough. Andrew asks if he is disappointed to find just a greedy old man, adding that he is truly ashamed. Randolph replies that he is just curious about how a relief post in a giant city like this one has become so desperate for money. Andrew maintains his straight posture, but he says he heard Randolph brought in Sister May after she collapsed. Her only son joined the great expedition to the demonic continent and never returned. Since then, she lives with that pain. And not just her, but many people lost family and friends, since countless knights who admired Wilhelm never returned. And so the cavalry lost countless talents and consumed resources as war funds. It was a prosperous city that could have recovered. The real problem began when Serengeti, his blood relative, returned. She returned having lost both her legs, but for some reason she remains unconscious. Many priests tried to awaken her, but nothing worked. They tried every method, but nothing changed. Because of this, the city's finances hit rock bottom, and the Marquis was manipulated by swindlers, incurring enormous debts and using the territory as collateral. After that, his lordship fell into despair and was ruined. As a result, all city subsidies were cut, and now this is the only relief post. If it disappears, every patient will be abandoned. That is why they shamelessly demand donations, even from brothers like him who help Sister May, as they have no beds, supplies, or staff. Randolph says he is beginning to understand, and that Serengeti may be unconscious due to mental shock or a physical problem. Andrew says if it were something like that, they would have treated it long ago. It seems to be a curse, but it is beyond their capabilities. The protagonist repeats this in his mind, wondering how Isabella can break it with her blessing. He then thanks him and says he must go, as he has business with the Marquis, surprising the priest. Andrew asks him to please wait, explaining that his lordship has secluded himself and does not receive visitors easily. He says he cannot exactly call it a reward for the donation, but if Randolph gives him a few days, he will arrange a meeting. Randolph replies that he does not have time. He tells him not to worry about the donation, as he already got what he paid for. Just then, a voice calls out for Father Andrew. The voice shouts that her ladyship said to bring the guest who made the donation. Randolph comments that when he arrives with money, they let him in right away. He then starts to leave, but the priest asks him to wait. He says that whatever the reason, he is grateful for his help. Randolph tells him not to worry, as it was not even his money. But the priest says it is not about the donation, but about helping May. A smile spreads across Randolph's face. He says it is good to see Andrew again. The priest wonders what he means by seeing him again. At Marquis Weiser's palace, Isabella and Hudson face the guards. Meanwhile, the protagonist is at the dining table. The Marquis stares at him coldly while drinking tea. He wonders if this man donated the huge sum of 100,000 gold coins to the relief post. He does not look like he brought supplies, so maybe he is just some rich man. He apologizes for the abrupt invitation and introduces himself as Weiser, the Lord of the Garden of Knights. Randolph thinks that he has really changed a lot on the outside. Weiser was once a knight who made a name for himself across the continent with his exceptional skill. With his help, his daughter Serengeti was able to attain a star and transcend. She rose to the ranks of the strongest on the continent. Because of this, the House of Marquis Weiser established its position and maintained its power within the kingdom of Balran. And in gratitude, Weiser swore his loyalty to him. Weiser was the type to repay grudges with the sword and kindness with loyalty. But now, Randolph does not know if only his appearance has changed, or if his heart has too. The Marquis says that Randolph must already know why he was invited. The garden is facing great financial difficulties, and he would like to propose something mutually beneficial. Randolph refuses, saying he will heal Serengeti. Weiser is surprised by this, but then he bursts into hysterical laughter. He says he was mistaken, thinking he was just some rich young master. He says he has heard the rumors across the continent that if you mention the Marquis's daughter's name, he will throw money at you. He then shouts, asking how much he will have to pay to heal her. But then he slams the table hard. He says he has already been deceived by scum like him and has lost too much. He demands to know what more he has to offer to satisfy him. He says this is a waste of time and orders the guards to tear out the swindler's eyes. Randolph says he does not need money and tells him to hear him out. He says he cannot guarantee it, but there is a chance he can cure her. Weiser calls it an innovative approach and asks why he would do it, assuming he could even cure her. Randolph says it is a debt he is paying to him, and also one he is there to collect. He introduces himself as the successor to Wilhelm, the Night King he swore loyalty to. He says to take him to his daughter because he has a question for her, and in exchange, he will cure her. Weiser laughs, saying he calls himself the successor to the Night King. The continent is infested with people who call themselves successors, so he orders them to take his life and the lives of the other two outside. One of the guards advances on him with his sword. Randolph just shifts his gaze towards him, slamming the teacup on the table. He blocks the guard's strike while ordering them to prepare the location, because he is going to prove that he is the true successor of Wilhelm. Weiser watches everything that is happening from above. Two people meet in the arena. Hudson questions what is happening to cause a duel, and Isabella says he has always been unpredictable. Randolph stretches his neck, ready for the fight. Then he analyzes his opponent. He has a set of armor blessed by a high-level priest and is fully prepared for this. The soldier questions if he really is the successor to the Night King, and says if he is lying, he should confess and ask for forgiveness, as he might be spared. Randolph says it does not matter, and tells him to just keep his promise to keep his identity secret and not tell anyone who he lost to. The soldier swears on his honor as a knight that this will not happen, and he advances with a thrust, saying he wants to see the skills of the self-proclaimed successor to the Night King. Randolph dodges, thinking he is fast. The swordsman changes the trajectory of his strike, trying for a clean cut as the protagonist evades. He reflects that many high-level knights were exterminated due to the Great Expedition, but even this guy has better stats than him right now. And with this difference in equipment, he cannot underestimate him, as the knight holds his sword to prevent the draw, and so he tries a downward strike. The arc of his strike then approaches. Randolph grinds his teeth in anger, blocking the sword's hilt with his head. Everyone is surprised by this action, saying he never imagined he would stop his sword with his head. He is not a fraud, but a true lunatic, as Randolph looks at the man with a hateful expression. Weiser says his movements are decent, but they are nothing more than cheap tricks. He has seen countless idiots claiming to be successors to the Night King just to take advantage, but his swordsmanship cannot be replicated, and having seen it firsthand, he can say it surpassed human logic. Unless he shows a technique on that level, he cannot claim to be his successor. The guard parries the blows, commenting that he is different from the scoundrels he has seen and is certain he has talent. He tells him to admit his lies and join his command, promising to ask the Lord to forgive his sins, but Randolph says he is too confident for someone with the upper hand. The soldier replies that he must understand these are the Lord's orders. He adds that he does not feel good about it, but Randolph interrupts him with a high kick. He draws his sword and says he will show him his super powerful items as well. Then he thrusts forward. The soldier is surprised by this. Randolph flings Michaela's sword away. He draws two extreme iron swords. Everyone wonders about the dual weapons. Hudson wonders when he got a weapon like that. The protagonist begins to pressure the guard with heavy blows. The soldier thinks the timing of his attacks has shortened and that he is trying to win with speed. However, his armor is only getting scratched. He comments that this is far too weak. A two-handed sword is slow but has high attack power, enough to cause light damage through armor, but dual swords deal little damage. Instead, he only needs to defend a few areas, but the protagonist then cuts through his sword. The soldier is left completely unable to understand what is happening. Randolph pulls Michaela's sword from the ground. The man asks if he even changed. The protagonist tells him to watch closely because he will now show him the true sword of the Night King. Previously, when he was in the Tower of Spirits, he could choose 2 rewards from the lists, but then he notices something different. An experience boost is granted thanks to the Extreme Iron Sword. It is a transcendent version, which means its stats are lower but its effects are powerful. He can choose 2 rewards and receive the Extreme Set bonus, and so he acquires the weapons. All his skills level up, and now they will have better effects. On top of that, he can read memories from his constellation, recreating part of the swordsmanship of the Night King, Wilhelm. Back in the present, Randolph continues his assault. The soldier tries to defend against the relentless blows, but the protagonist shatters his stance. The soldier wonders what kind of movement technique this is. He is at a disadvantage. He needs to stop this and create distance. But Randolph wants to know how it feels to be surrounded by threads. If he tries to create distance, the protagonist comes at him with dual swords. If he uses his strength, Randolph uses the two-handed sword to break his balance. He wonders if a swordsmanship like this even exists, one that does not stick to a single form. It is as if space itself submits to him. Humans are stunned when they face the incomprehensible, entering a state where they can do nothing but watch. This applies to everyone in the training grounds, even to the knight facing him. His neck is damaged by the Sword King's secret technique. The world-destroying blow, a perfect slash. The smoke begins to dissipate. The protagonist holds his combat stance, but the soldier drops his sword. With his neck bleeding, he says that he has lost this fight against the protagonist. Randolph keeps his head down, catching his breath, but he shouts, asking if he needs to show them anything else. The secretary calls out to his lord. Weiser then addresses Lucas. He tells him to treat the man with respect as he bows, for he is the successor to Wilhelm, the venerable knight. In a white room inside the mansion, Serengeti lies resting, and the Marquis explains that she has been this way since they returned from the Great Expedition. He tried everything to wake her, from famous elixirs to renowned healers, but the curse is too powerful. Randolph stares at her body on the bed. He activates his great sage ability. Just as he thought, she is under the Demon King's curse. Of course, not even the Saint or the Holy Emperor could do anything, but an exorcism using stellar energy might work. Weiser says he does not doubt it, but asks if there is any way to wake her. Randolph replies that he will try just once. He brings his hand close to her head. He then bestows the blessing of the stars upon the girl. Weiser is stunned by this. All of the protagonist's stellar energy is consumed. It is not enough to break the Demon King's curse. Instead, the curse's hold is temporarily lifted. Serengeti slowly opens her eyes. She asks where she is now. Weiser grinds his teeth. He leans over the bed, asking if she is truly awake. His daughter speaks softly, and her father asks if she recognizes him. Serengeti turns toward Hudson, leaving her father confused. He demands to know who this man is. Hudson grinds his teeth before he speaks. He asks for her forgiveness for being so late, and he calls out Serengeti's name again. He thought that as long as she was alive, it would be enough, and if he became a council member, he would be recognized by the Marquise. If she had lost half her body, he would become her legs, because as long as she was alive, he would take care of her forever. Hudson believed that if he did not give up, an opportunity would appear one day. But this is nothing more than arrogance and greed. Opportunities are not eternal, and Serengeti's body continues to lose vitality as her face loses its essence. The strong arms that once swung a sword become like a dry branch. If the Starbearer had arrived just a little later, he would have never seen her again, and so, he asks for forgiveness for arriving so late. Weiser questions what he is to his daughter. Randolph says that is enough, and while he knows Hudson cannot contain his emotions, the curse has not yet been removed. The Marquis asks if he means she could fall asleep again. The protagonist says that at best, he can maintain her state for some time, but to completely break the curse, he needs another star. To remove it completely, his stellar energy must be greater. There are only 2 ways to level up or to find stars, and he needs to recover the 5 he lost. Because of the successor class's secret effect, which allows him to read a star's previous owner's memories, he must recover them immediately. If someone else gets them first, he may never be able to get them back. He has already recovered 1, leaving only 4. He must get them quickly. He needs to ask Serengeti about when he lost his life, so he tells everyone to leave, as he has something important to discuss with her alone. In the dining hall, the Marquise and Hudson meet. Weiser asks if he means they promise to marry each other. Hudson confirms, apologizing for his late introduction. But the Marquis then takes a deep breath. He says he is grateful that Hudson came for his daughter, but from now on, he will no longer be able to see her. Hudson says he knows he is not good enough, but he will soon join the council and become worthy. He asks for a chance, but Weiser replies that it is not about that. The consequences of the Great Expedition were severe. Restoring the Knights and Serengeti cost a great deal of money, so in the end, they were reduced to begging for help. When this happened, the one who approached him was the House of Duke Sion, whose power rivals that of the king in the Valan Kingdom. Duke Sion lent them an enormous sum on the condition that they send Serengeti to him. At the time, they had no choice, as her survival was their priority. Furthermore, he believed that even if Serengeti never woke up and his family fell apart, the Duke's reputation would prevent him from abandoning a girl he had taken in. For that reason, in 1 month, she will be sent to the House of Duke Sion. It was an unavoidable decision to protect this territory and Serengeti. Therefore, Hudson should forget her as well. Later in the room, Serengeti asks who he is. Randolph introduces himself as the successor to the King of Knights and says he has come to bring news of his final moments. Serengeti says that is a lie because he has no successor. The protagonist thinks that this is to be expected from his closest ally. There is no way she would fall for such vague words. So he tells her about the day she faced a star for the first time. She was constantly worried that if she consumed a star and became a transcendent, she might stop being Serengeti. At the time, he could not understand the anxiety within her. However, he now imagines it must have been because she wanted to preserve her love for Hudson. Serengeti says that is something only the 2 of them know, Randolph continues, saying that for her, he gave her words of encouragement. The girl is even more surprised by this. In the past, she had only turned away, while Wilhelm pushed her and told her to shut up and just take the star. Serengeti says that he really is Wilhelm. Randolph replies that these are his circumstances and his appearance has changed, but yes, it is him. He adds that if she wants, he can tell her other things. He reflects that the memory of encouraging Serengeti was just one of 26 expressions that appear when he presses control and a key. However, thanks to the hidden effect of the star successor class, the memory is so real to him it feels like it actually happened. Of course, the action is not his own, but one that reflects Wilhelm's personality. Serengeti says he is not the kind of man who would speak carelessly to others, so that is more than enough, and asks if he has become a sinner. Randolph confirms, and she warns him to be careful of hunters. Players who possess others while retaining memories from before losing their lives are called sinners, and the NPCs who specialize in hunting them are called hunters or reapers. Randolph says that no matter how much he thinks about it, there is something he wants to ask about his final moments. On that day, he definitely takes the Demon King's life. He is sure he drives the path of light into that bastard's core, and his body begins to disintegrate. However, in the final moment of the fight, a pressure envelops all of their bodies, and everything simply freezes in time. After that, he loses consciousness, and he loses his life just like that. So he wants Serengeti to tell him the truth behind how he lost his life that day. The great expedition led by Wilhelm is an unprecedented force of 200,000 elite soldiers, and their morale is at its peak, with extensive preparations based on exhaustive data, and a meticulous plan to handle every possible variable flawlessly. Everything is perfect, or rather, it is supposed to be. Serengeti is legless, looking up. She then stares at the sky. A priestess begs her to please keep going, offering her own life for a blessing. Another says it is frustrating, but this is as far as he can go, and they must press on. Or a disfigured soldier, telling them they cannot stop. Serengeti sheds tears, remembering that she must press on. She thinks that even after using so many lives as stepping stones, they cannot even come close to the Demon King. Zombies begin to rise from the ground. They march towards the army of the Great Expedition. They attack as if they know every move, and that is impossible unless there is a traitor on the demon's side. So in the end, the expedition is already crumbling from within, right from the start. She wonders if it is an impossible task after all, but the protagonist illuminates everything, declaring that it is not over yet. All the zombies are drawn to the great light. They are blown away by him an instant later. Wilhelm remarks that she looks exhausted, and that she can rest for now, because this will all be over soon. Serengeti is surprised to hear these words. The god of war, or rather the king of knights, has such an overwhelming presence. It almost makes you feel sorry for the demons. A single strike from him can alter the very terrain. A deep despair whispers that everything is over, but that man cuts through despair itself with nothing but a single sword. Wilhelm continues to stare forward coldly. He walks with Serengeti in his arms. She says he does not need to go so far, as her body has recovered quite a bit. Wilhelm tells her not to worry. He's only doing it so she can preserve her strength. Excluding the one who was injured and sent back to the entrance, they are the only ones left. So at the very least, she must return alive, since she cries every night saying she misses that Hudson. Serengeti says she never cried, but she will definitely return to him, until a magic circle forms beneath the two of them. Serengeti looks down, perplexed. Wilhelm cracks a smile, saying that honestly. This game is not easy at all. The girl screams his name, as the god of war tells her to go back and get married, or start a relationship if she wants, but that she must live a good life. Serengeti thinks that she can live, that the King of Knights saved her life and gave her a chance to survive. Even if she returns alone, no one will be able to blame her. That is how grotesque this battle has been. If she just goes back, she can meet the man she misses so much and enjoy a normal, happy life. If she just gets out of there alive, she will be able to stand before Hudson. But in her mind, Serengeti apologizes, and so she uses the position swap ability. Wilhelm is surprised to be caught by it. The magic circle explodes, suddenly amidst the smoke. Wilhelm emerges, completely stunned by it all. He sees Serengeti on the ground, both of her legs gone. She says she was lucky, that even after being caught in the trap, her body was not destroyed, and that despite losing her legs, she survived thanks to the elixir she was given. Wilhelm thinks that he acted without thinking, and even though he was immersed in the game, he made a very dramatic exit. The girl comments that Wilhelm hid her by placing the Supreme Protection Talisman on her body. That is why the Demon King did not notice her, allowing her to observe the situation until the very end. Randolph says he remembers up to that point, but that is not what he is curious about. The girl says it must be about what happened next. The Demon King appeared immediately after that, and just as in his memory, he was certainly defeated, but suddenly Wilhelm freezes, as if time itself has stopped. Even after driving his weapon into the Demon King, he says that for a 5-star transcendent to think he could press things this far without the goddess's interest, but that was the mistake that cost him his life. Without the goddess's authority, he can break his form but not destroy his essence. He offers his respect to the god of war. As a tribute, instead of his torn flesh, he takes his body as a new vessel. An energy of chaos then takes over the area. It then forms a typhoon of energy, but it is pierced by light. It is destroyed right after. The Demon King says there is no way that thing is a star, and that he planned to kill everyone, but he cannot do that since he is also a god. Wilhelm then falls unconscious. The Demon King screams that he will have his revenge, while the god of war lies sprawled on the ground. Serengeti says she does not remember what happened after that. The protagonist thinks that the Demon King tried to take Wilhelm's body, and a goddess helped him. He wants to know what the hell is going on. Meanwhile, at the Kingdom Wall, the guards comment that it is boring spending time there. Another replies that all low-level soldiers will have their salaries delayed. This is because they cannot properly reallocate nights between shifts, and no one wants to stay in a rotten place. Another says that is true, and his colleague asks why the grim talk. But there are several figures in the mist. The guard then panics. He screams that they are monsters. As the creatures run toward the wall, they warn that it is a monster wave and they are under attack. A long time ago, a war between light and darkness begins in Pangania. The goddess Leah loses her life in this war, and the continent falls into deep darkness. After this, the continent is isolated, and the ends of the roads are blocked by a black void. To connect the separated lands, people eventually invest astronomical sums of money in portals. In other words, portals become an essential means of transport, but they are also unknown objects. If abandoned, they can connect to the black void and become a disaster. Back to the events from earlier. Randolph sits in the room with Serengeti. He reflects that connecting what she said means the Demon King tried to take his body, and Pina interfered. He has more questions than answers and is not sure, but if he connects everything, the reason he did not kill the Demon King was because his PC got a blue screen. However, Serengeti witnessed everything, which means the NPCs inside the game were not affected. So maybe for some reason, users who were playing could not intentionally defeat the Demon King. Since the being that can destroy the true essence is not a user, but a player who has entered the world. This could be why they ended up in this other world, and if losing a life in the game summons someone as a player, then Wilhelm was not his first character. With the loss of his strongest character, he becomes the player. He always liked hardcore games and would always create a character, but if it was weak, he would just abandon it. In that process, the gap grew, and his normal characters never triggered the summoning. He is not sure, but this is the most likely theory for now, and he knows what he has to do. First, the traitors who interfered with his expedition and attacked as if they knew his movements, which makes no sense without a traitor. It is highly probable that they are those 8 heroes he does not even know. He will hunt down every one of the bastards who stood in his way. Second, if he failed to destroy the Demon King's essence, then there is a high chance that it is still alive. He will take the Demon King's life and end all of this, but suddenly a voice calls out to the Starbearer. Hudson shouts that things are very bad because the city is under attack by monsters. Outside, he sees how desolate it is, with monsters all around the monument in honor of the knights. Guards try to fight against them, but they end up losing their lives in the process. Isabella says that an invasion of this scale looks like a monster wave that emerged from a nearby portal. Randolph thinks that he knew Weiser spoke of the ruined city, but he even withdrew the money for the portal's maintenance. Knights ride on their horses, fighting the monsters with lances and swords. Randolph shouts the name of Marquis Weiser. He turns around, calling him Wilhelm's successor. He asks if he is still in this city, while Randolph demands to know what is happening. The Marquis explains that as he can see, monsters are destroying everything, and it seems something went wrong with the 3 portals to the east, south, and west. Hudson complains about there being 3 at the same time, and Randolph says that it is madness. The Marquis says it is shameful, but begs him to lend his strength, saying that if he fights, it will be a great help. The mission to defend the city would grant honor and a lot of experience. He says the reward will be based on the completion time and can be improved. The protagonist wonders if Weiser has gone mad. He shouts that he is begging, since with the city's current forces, it is impossible. Hudson begs for their help in Serengeti's territory, and Isabella replies that it is not something they can decide based on emotion. Randolph thinks that this is the worst possible scenario. For now, they are only normal monsters, and they are holding on. But the moment 10 minutes pass and a hybrid appears, they will be annihilated. A hybrid is something that neither he nor anyone else there can handle right now. The only way to prevent them from appearing is to destroy the 3 portals and finish the mission before 10 minutes pass. However, for that to happen, they do not have enough combat strength. The regular soldiers are busy defending the city, which means the Order of Knights and the 3 of them have to break through a large-scale monster wave. It is a long shot, but the Golden Scale shop upgrade is probably connected to synchronization, and he cannot give up. The timing is terrible and they have 0 preparation, but there is no way to complete the main quest here, so there is no need to throw his life away for something so useless. Amid the smoke of the area, Randolph thinks he cannot get carried away until he hears a scream. Civilians cry out for help from within the fire, losing their lives to mere goblins. As cruel as ever, they even strike from behind. The people run as far away as they can. Because of this, children cry. Amid a grotesque scene caused by these monsters, she pleads for someone to please help. Randolph watches this with a cold expression and clenches his fist. Weiser is then taken by surprise. He notices the priest, Andrew, carrying a man in his arms. He then shouts for the knights to follow him, and to stop the monsters chasing Priest Andrew, he moves his golden sword, taking a monster's life with ease. He then says the priest needs to take a horse, as they cannot save everyone, and if they are lost, there is no salvation. Andrew says he cannot do that. As a goblin advances on his flank, Andrew's eyes widen in surprise, but Isabella quickly takes the goblin's life. Weiser is even more surprised. Andrew calls out to his sister, but the other two approach them. Randolph says this will be difficult and anyone who wants to back out can leave. Hudson says this is about protecting Serengeti, so he will help. Isabella replies that he talks as if things ever calm down. Randolph comments that he was just saying he really needs help, a mission no sane person would accept, and there is no way in hell they can finish it with this city in such a mess. The only reason he accepts the mission is not because he feels sorry for the people, or because he feels responsible for the fallen city, not even to protect the family of a subordinate who lost his legs, and not out of guilt for the people who lost their lives because of him. It is because he is a madman who thrives on adrenaline, so he says that from now on. They will split this wave of monsters down the middle. The horses charge forward rapidly, led by Marquis Weiser. They ride toward the immense wave of monsters ahead. A soldier questions if they will keep advancing like this. If they fail, they will be isolated in the middle of the enemy lines. He calls out to the Marquis once more. Weiser thinks that he knows this is basically asking them to die. But when he heard what Randolph said earlier, Weiser tries to argue that a frontal assault is impossible with their strength, as they will be isolated and then killed. Randolph asks if there is another option. As long as the teleporters inside the walls are not destroyed, the horde will never end. It is not a matter of if they can succeed, they must succeed. He says he will ensure they can advance, so no matter what happens, they must not fall back. Weiser shouts for them not to slow down no matter what. They must not stop advancing, as a giant monster slams down its tentacle. Weiser thinks that he will trust him completely, the successor of Wilhelm. Randolph says the old man just keeps charging ahead. This is close enough, for they are now in range. He hurls his spear, severing one of the octopus's tentacles. The monster panics at this. Randolph then uses the teleport book. The druids appear there moments later. The connection point is the Basrock forest. The High Druid then says he will repay what he did for the forest, and so they begin to fire a storm of arrows at the monsters. Weiser turns, asking what that is. Hudson says that druids have come to help, and that he really had an ace up his sleeve. Randolph thinks that he never imagined the reward he got from the forest. The friendship of the druids would be this useful. On top of that, they never betray a friend they trust. Stopping at the forest was damn lucky, so please, show them what it means to have a friend. Their leader holds his bow tightly. He aims an arrow, saying a monster is blocking the path and that he understands they want to push straight through. He gathers his energy, telling him not to worry and to just push forward, because he will fulfill the only request, to create a path for his friend. The arrow slices through the air along its path, approaching the octopus at an absurd speed. As soon as the arrow makes contact with it, it explodes everything around it with incredible precision. Several of the monsters lose their lives, or their limbs are sent flying. The place is completely devastated, but it clears a path for the cavalry. They press on, their teeth clenched in fear, but one of them shouts that they have made it through the newly created path. Hudson shouts that it is a success. Isabella says they just have to destroy the teleporter and it is over. Randolph thinks he cannot believe they cleared a path so easily, and that this is the power of a level 9 raid boss. Weiser shouts for them to pay attention. It is too early to celebrate as the monster horde is not finished yet. He says they have about 6 minutes until the hybrid emerges, and they must destroy all 3 teleporters. They will now split into 3 units. Randolph says they will split into 2. Weiser argues they cannot leave a teleporter alone, and Randolph replies that he knows, but even if the druids keep the horde under control, a large number of monsters will still be protecting the teleporter. If they split into 3 groups, they will never destroy all 3 in time. No matter how he looks at it, 2 units is the absolute limit. Weiser asks about the remaining teleporter, since there is not enough time to destroy one and then move to another. Randolph remains silent at this. He says he will go with only Priest Andrew by his side, and Weiser shouts that this is ridiculous. But Randolph asks them to trust him, as it is the choice with the highest probability of success. However, they must destroy the teleporters 30 seconds before the hybrid emerges, or even earlier. The Marquis says he will trust him, and so he advances, counting on the protagonist. Hudson says he must have a plan this time too, and Isabella tells him not to doubt them. She says he always does things they cannot imagine, and he will definitely do it again. Andrew asks what they should do and how, but Randolph just says they are going to destroy the teleporter. He tells him to be quiet, because he is figuring it out right now. He thinks about how Isabella, Hudson, and the old man have left for the other two teleporters. There will be monsters protecting them, but fewer. If each team pushes forward, they should be able to destroy them. The problem is that the mutant monster will appear at the last remaining portal. It is the Black Warrior's final attack pattern. It is a monster on a completely different level from the normal ones, so he has to be the one to handle it. Leaving it to others would create too much uncertainty. The minimum time required to kill it is 30 seconds. With a priest like Andrew helping, it should be possible, but if they take too long, their chances will plummet. All he can do is trust. Trust that they will succeed, as Andrew asks if that is a hydrogun. The withered hybrid has 5 minutes until its appearance. The remaining time drops to 4 minutes, down to 3 minutes and 12 seconds, and finally, 1 minute and 4 seconds, reaching the final count of 34 seconds from within the last portal. The hydrogen arrives with 30 seconds left. Randolph thinks that with this, the minimum condition has been met. All that remains is a teleport, now that the mutant's presence is detected. He is about to emerge now. This will cause a massive explosion at the site. A mutant monster enters the area. The Black Warrior appears, looking coldly at the people before him, but he notices something different. Randolph thinks that only one remains. One more, empowered by the priest's enhancements. The Black Flesh hybrid has some time left until its appearance. A total of 28 seconds remain. Beneath the city's overcast sky, rain begins to fall on the soldiers. They run quickly towards the last portal. The Marquis reflects that he is protected by Wilhelm's successor and that there is not much time. They need to hurry. As Randolph dons his armor, the Celestial Dragon set's effect activates. He surges forward with terrifying speed toward the Black Warrior. He stares down the monster with extreme coldness. The equipped boots of Hermes grant a speed buff, and so the protagonist stops behind the monster. He swings his sword toward the portal, but he is grabbed by the Black Warrior. It throws the protagonist away like a mannequin. Even so, Randolph tries to stay on his feet, but a bluish energy surges in front of him. Monsters try to attack him with absurd speed. They swarm him in a cowardly attack, but he unleashes several cuts at an absurd speed. The reinforced hydrogen dies, and its cooldown is 1 day. The Black Warrior remains standing in the middle. 21 seconds remain until the Black Flesh hybrid is summoned. Randolph advances once more, ready to thrust. The Black Warrior dodges the sword strike. It equips the extreme iron sword to face him. The Black Warrior immediately retreats, spinning its sword and cutting Randolph's arm. But the protagonist is healed, thanks to the enhancements from Father Andrew. The Black Warrior moves its weapon once more, sending the protagonist flying with a blast of energy. 17 seconds remain until the jerky hybrid is summoned. Father Andrew is left speechless by this, but the Black Warrior rushes toward him this time. The man is completely terrified by this, but Randolph appears before him and blocks the strike. Father Andrew is thrown backwards into the monsters, but the protagonist cuts them down with ease. The two are surrounded by creatures, not to mention the Black Demon. Randolph then looks down. Using his Star Piercer, a skill still stuck at level 1, Andrew is stunned by this. The protagonist uses his Extreme Sword's dual wield, moving with overwhelming speed, as the Black Warrior tries to react. During their sword duel, the timer for the hybrid's arrival drops to 11 seconds. A massive explosion of power erupts on the spot. As the smoke clears, blood is spat onto the ground from the force of the combat. Randolph blocks the Black Warrior's strike and pierces him. The monster remains silent until the very end. Randolph drives his sword into its foot. He cracks a smile, saying that finally, it will stay quiet and away from everyone. He then yells for Priest Andrew to perform the prayer of adoration right now. Randolph yells for him to pray only to him, to worship him. When 4 minutes remained, they advance with the hydrogen leading the way. Andrew asks if it is truly possible with just the two of them. He says he does not want to doubt him, but he cannot calm down in this situation. Randolph replies that if they had enough time, they could succeed, but with his current skill, it is impossible within the time limit. Andrew then asks why they came alone, and if Randolph does not realize that if they fail, everyone will die. Randolph asks if he wants to save everyone in the city. Then he must perform a prayer of adoration for him. This is a sincere prayer offered to a goddess by a high-ranking priest connected to her, a prayer only a select few members can recite. If this prayer is offered to someone other than the goddess, the target gains an equivalent power for a short time. But to offer the prayer of adoration means it will be the priest's last, and he will be abandoned. And Andrew is an NPC created to serve only her. For him, to be abandoned by the goddess is a pain greater than having his heart pierced, as if his entire world has lost all life. Randolph thinks that, in other words, it is a supreme technique that risks everything the priest has, and he was telling this man to abandon the world he dedicated his entire life to. Andrew asks how he knows he can use it, since it is something he has never told anyone besides a few priests and her. Randolph says it does not matter, because what matters is that he can use it, and Andrew says that if he knows of it, he also knows what it means. The protagonist confirms this, but still he built this plan assuming he would use it, thinking that sacrificing his beliefs would create a chance for success. It was also a plan made knowing that he could not refuse this request, because from what he knows of him, he would never abandon his people. It is practically the same as forcing a sacrifice from him by using the people as hostages. Andrew then thanks him for this. He weeps, because if Randolph had not said anything, he never could have mentioned it and would have lived his life with a heavy conscience for not saving anyone, so he thanks him. Randolph is left completely stunned upon hearing this. Andrew, an NPC who gives many of the quests used to farm honor, was an honest priest and a sage of Pangania. Randolph respects him more than any other human, and just then, the system notifies him that the prayer has been activated. His strength, health, agility, intelligence, star power, and other stats are going to increase immensely. But the target's level was low, and the duration of the effect had also been significantly reduced. The duration of the enhancement would be only 2 seconds. He says that with these stats, he can at least copy Wilhelm, and the monster should watch this very closely, because if this were his past self, this technique would never be used on grotesque things like it. The raindrops stop, but a powerful energy strikes them in the next instant. The sword art of Wilhelm, the King of Knights, takes over the area. The Dark Warrior begins to dissolve from the blow. This was the cleaver of heaven and earth, which splits it down the middle. The sky is cut by this magnificent swordsmanship. The women of the village look up. The men do as well and say that it was. Andrew is in disbelief at what he is witnessing. Randolph then calls out to Father Andrew, telling him that he saved this city, while he destroys the portal. The mission took 9 minutes and 59 seconds, with the protagonist gaining dozens of enhancements. With that, the mission Fix the Hole in the Void had been completed. Andrew met the King of Knights, Wilhelm, a few years ago. He asks him not to ignore the request of this old priest, to please save his poor daughter. His poor daughter Andasar was cursed by dark magic and transformed into an eldritch. Even though she had become a monster, he still loved her and could not bear to lose her, so he hid her underground, far from the world. However, as she was consumed by demonic energy, it became difficult for him to handle her alone, and he began to seek help in secret. The most important thing was to find someone strong enough to purify Andasar alone, and who valued honor enough not to leak information. After some time passed, finally, Wilhelm then faced the man, so he orders him to lead the way. As he opens the door to the room, the girl stands in the middle of it all, with her black eyes and disfigured face. Wilhelm asks if it is her, and Andrew confirms, asking for help. The protagonist approaches, saying he understands and that he will purify her. The King of Knights, Wilhelm, is the man who saved him and his daughter. Randolph finally makes the Black Legion return to the Abyss. Andrew asks who he is and how he managed to use Wilhelm's sword techniques. Randolph replies that they can say he is his successor. Andrew thinks that he never imagined he would be helped by the disciple after being saved by the master. This is truly an incredible fate, but he starts spitting blood, collapsing. Randolph runs toward the priest, Andrew, asking if he is all right. Asking if he is. Andrew explains his sacred power vanished as a side effect of the prayer of worship, and it seems the illness he was suppressing has resurfaced. Randolph thinks his condition is terrible. He is not sure it will work, but he will try. He then says he heard that he received help from his master in the past, and Andrew confirms. The protagonist says that in return he gave an indulgence to his master. The King of Knights said he would carry his sins, and that he would use the indulgence he gave him. He then says that he forgives all of Andrew's sins. An indulgence is a pardon that a high priest of the Order of the Goddess can grant 3 times in their life. According to the lore, it is an authority that forgives anything except the 10 deadly sins. In the game, it was an item used to remove suppression points, a penalty given to trolls. But in reality, it is just a shell symbolizing its meaning, since it is only a manifestation of faith. His contract with Drumut is also a form of faith like this. Drumut was surprised and questioned how he knew of the contract. Andrew is surprised as his divine power returns, and the indulgence can only be used by the person who received it. Randolph thinks that it worked with Drumut, so he tried it, but he did not expect it to work. Andrew asks what the hell that was, and perhaps he received an indulgence from another priest, but he then denies it, thinking he would know if that were the case. He wants to know if he received an illegal indulgence and says he must repent, as he will pray with him. Randolph thinks he should just make something up, but the cavalry is right behind him. Isabella shouts that they are there and wants to know if they are okay. The protagonist thinks it was just in time, getting up and saying it seems they have come to get them, and that Andrew is more persistent than he imagined, and they will just consider this a blessing from the heavens. The main quest ranking is updated again, with Randolph in first place. The day the mission ends, the Dryads return to the forest using the teleportation book. Their leader says not to forget that if he is in danger, they will always help him, and that for beings who live on the essence of the forest, the city air must be poison. After they leave, the city immediately begins reconstruction. Of course, the city has no money, so Hudson funds everything. They decide to hire the kingdom's alchemist to fix the broken teleporter, so it will not become corrupted again. It is normally very expensive, but with Hudson's money, there is no problem. Andrew recovers his sacred power, but must focus on his own healing for a time. Since there were no priests for the city's wounded, they decided to heal people with potions. Of course this requires money, but they have Hudson's massive fortune, who complained that he was solving everything with his money. Randolph replies that the city was poor, and he should think of it as all being for Serengeti. In the castle, he questions if she has slept, and Hudson replies that she was consumed by the curse again after the invasion. Randolph throws something to him, saying that he understands. Hudson says it is a high-grade elixir imbued with blessings and wants to know how he obtained a treasure that the Order of the Goddess produces less than 10 of per year. The protagonist tells him to use 1 drop every 2 hours, and if he does that for a month, her legs will be completely healed. Hudson says that just as he thought, he is a player, and must have bought it from the Golden Scale shop as well. Thanks to him, he also completed Mission 4. When he saw the new rankings, he realized that if he was correct, his name is Randolph. And Randolph is the one who has obtained the most famous characters throughout Pangania, including Wilhelm and the legendary user who disappeared a short time ago, known as Spectre. Randolph says that hearing things like legendary said to him makes him shy, but he asks for forgiveness for hiding it. Hudson says he understands, since revealing that is asking to lose your life. He wants to know what to call him from now on, but Randolph tells him to continue calling him the same. Hudson thanks him for spending his golden scales to buy something like this, but Randolph says he received a lot of money for being in first place. His friend comments that the city's weak combat power had a great impact on the score. The protagonist then begins to analyze the side panel. The Golden Scale shop sells items using his time, and it is something essential for survival from now on. Besides, the White Dragon's Fang, the Cursed Grimoire of Eldritch, and the Dragon Heart are all primary materials he used to craft unique grade items. It could be a coincidence, but he cannot imagine anyone else obtaining them besides him, especially since the White King was a monster that even Wilhelm gave up on taking the life of. If it is true that when a character loses their life, the equipped items are registered in the shop, then the remaining time is much more important, and he needs to go to the next mission. Thus, he announces that he wants to start his next mission and that Hudson must take care of Serengeti, but he says there is a problem. It seems that Marquis Weiser, in exchange for money, promised to send her to the duchy soon. Furthermore, Maxim is one of the 8 heroes who is lending his strength, and there is no way to stop them now. Randolph thinks that he was someone he hired during the Great Expedition, and also the piece of shit who fled in the swamp near the entrance. He was planning to face those bastards known as the 8 Great Heroes eventually anyway, and it seems he will meet one of them sooner than he expected. So he tells him to just buy time until he returns, because if he asks Weiser in some way, he will manage it. He will return as quickly as possible, and they must not hand Serengeti over to the duchy. The protagonist says that Hudson may not know how to fight, but he is someone she can trust. This means she trusts him a great deal, and was counting on Hudson as well. The young man is surprised by this. His mouth remains motionless, but he simply wishes him a good journey. As the next day arrives, Randolph says he did not have to do that, but he was given some good clothes. He thanks him for them, while Weiser says it was a humble gift so he does not need to worry and he wishes him a good journey. Randolph says that regarding the reward, he should speak with Hudson, and he will take care of it. Thus, they proceed to the monument in the center of the city. Randolph looks at the list full of names there because of him, reading James, Noah, Lucas, Jacob, and Zion, heroes who fought more bravely than anyone else. May they now rest in eternal peace. It was too late, but he wants to express his sincere gratitude to all of them. 500 knights reach eternal rest, and the protagonist begins to gain various rewards. Back in the kingdom, a knight asks which reward he mentioned, and the Marquis says he will provide monetary compensation to the families of the knights lost in the Great Expedition. 10,000 gold for each is a truly massive amount. He says Hudson will pay. Isabella asks where the saint is going, and Randolph replies that he will do as the stars command. He adds that there is someone they need to bring with them, and Isabella is surprised. The protagonist confirms, reflecting that this person is necessary to increase his combat power. Just like Isabella, he is another one of his characters that was neglected. Isaac, the lightning cutter. A few days later, in the underground dungeon of the Crow Cemetery, a place where the only sounds are your own, one of the flesh maws emerges from the darkness. The protagonist defeats the dungeon master, the corpse crow, and thus obtains the completion rewards: a broken 9 o'clock golden scale and an evolved corpse crow core. Randolph says it dropped on the first try, and Isabella asks what it is. The protagonist says it is a material needed to enter Cramdell, which is where Isaac is. The city of monsters, Cramdell, a city of monsters ruled by the White King, the guardian deity of the North. Home to all kinds of intelligent monsters, mythical species, and even unknown entities, it is known as an invincible fortress that neither the demon realm nor the rulers of the abyss dare to covet. Normally, no human could set foot there, but the hidden trait gluttony manifests itself. If the protagonist uses the corpse crow's core, it will be a different story. The devouring is complete, and the evolution trait has begun. The powerful miasma from the corpse crow's core is crushed by the giant's resistance and the monarch's heart. The mastery of the evolved trait increases due to the Lord of Wounds, and so the process is completed. The gluttony trait has evolved into King of the Corpse Crows, and when using Corpse Crow Summon, the number of summons varies depending on the amount of sacred power possessed. Randolph thinks he never imagined he could transform so perfectly, and it is far more flawless than a shapeshifter's mimicry. He wonders if this core is the source of the disguise, and it seems the mimicry will be undone if it breaks. The girl asks what happened to his appearance, and Randolph replies that it is the mimicry of a corpse crow. With this appearance, he should be able to enter Cramdell without any problems, and he makes a cawing sound. Isabella asks why he did that, and Randolph does it again, wondering if it is a side effect. The girl replies that he is more committed than she thought, and she is impressed, but Randolph tells her to be quiet and put this on. It is Michella's set. Equipping it grants the wings of a celestial dragon. However, since her appearance apart from the wings will be different from theirs, she will be classified as a draconian. It does not matter, since they are both monsters. He has explained enough. They must leave now, as they have a long journey ahead. A boat sails on the open sea. Isabella wears the set, which adjusts to the user's gender and level. She comments that she never knew it was possible to travel to Cramdell this way, and Randolph says that the star knows all. The girl comments on the monsters aboard the ship. She feels that none of them should be underestimated. Just by looking, she can tell they are level 7 or 8 monsters. It is a miracle that a ship full of such beings is even operating, but Randolph says that only evolved monsters are permitted to enter Cramdell. Monsters with the title of evolved have intelligence comparable to that of a human, and they never cause trouble within the territory. A claw moves in right after. Randolph says that is the rule, and Isabella turns. The level 9 raid monster, the colossal grudge, appears. It announces that it is hungry. Its claw then begins to move, heading toward the boat, but a red light then emanates from the ship. The Medusa's Eye ability activates. The grudge questions its hunger, as it is paralyzed, but it releases the boat an instant later. Isabella questions how a level 9 monster is defeated in a single blow, and Randolph explains it is the ability of Medusa, one of the 4 pillars. No one is permitted to cause disturbances in the territory, and anyone who breaks this rule loses their life, and that is the rule here. That is why, unlike that low-intelligence monster from just now, the evolved never break the rules. A hooded figure apologizes to the passengers, saying an impurity infiltrated Cramdell's territory. He says there is nothing to worry about, so they should please remain calm. They will arrive in Cramdell shortly, so they should please forget the recent unpleasant incident. They hope everyone has a peaceful day from this point forward. Randolph calls to Isabella and says the place they are going is an invincible fortress ruled by monsters, and if their identities are discovered, their lives will be at risk. She must not let her guard down, not even for a second. As an archway comes into view, they are finally in the city of Cramdell. A monster calls out that for the purification of body and mind, they should come to the Compassion Hot Springs, now at half price. She says they need to purify their unstable bodies and promises to serve them with kindness. Isabella says this is very different from what she expected. Randolph wonders what the hell happened. When he was here as Wilhelm just a year ago, it was a desolate place with no hot springs where not even a blade of grass grew. He wants to know what exactly they did here. Isabella asks if she can ask him a question. She wants to know what kind of person this Isaac is, the one they came so far to find. Isaac the Lightning Cutter is a wanted criminal who committed countless crimes across the continent. At a minimum, he robbed nobles or priests from the Order of the Goddess. At worst, he acted as a mercenary in war-torn cities, plundering the supply routes of his own allies. And beyond that, he assassinated key figures in entire cities, froze teleportation gates to unleash monster waves, and was the main culprit behind the annihilation of the mining city. Randolph says that in short, he is the most dangerous man in the history of Pangania, and Isabella comments that he seems quite proud of it. In any case, she now understands that he is someone who does not even act human. Randolph thinks that if he had to make an excuse for his actions back then, it was because he was worried about the declining number of players, and it was a form of protest. Of course, that was because he did not know Pangania was abnormal. He responds that Isaac will be a great addition to their forces, but Isabella says that nonetheless. Now that she knows he is a dangerous individual, if he does anything that even slightly threatens Randolph, she will take his life. Randolph says that is comforting. The girl asks what he looks like. Randolph says he has a lightning bolt scar on his forehead, golden blonde hair like pure gold, and the wings of a celestial dragon just like hers. Just then, in an alley, he sees someone matching that exact description. Isaac says the client does not understand him, insisting that his hot spring is the best and the cheapest. The girl questions if this is really the most dangerous man in Pangania. Isaac shouts that the man is not going home until he visits the hot spring. Isaac then looks to the side. He asks what they are looking for and why they keep staring. He notices the celestial dragon wings on Isabella. Randolph says what a relief, adding that it has been 150 years since he met a dragon in a place like this. Isabella confirms that it has indeed been 150 years. Randolph says this is exciting and they absolutely must catch up. Isaac notes that if they ignore the corpses, that woman over there is obviously human, but her mouth is covered. The eye of Medusa is watching them. Randolph says they had better be careful, and that they will talk for a bit now, in one of the city's alleys. Isaac asks how this bastard knows his name, and Randolph tells him the eyes of Medusa are watching, so it is best not to say anything unnecessary. He tells him not to act tough, because he knows they are in the same boat. Just by having celestial dragon wings, the monsters recognize her as one of their own, but she cannot fool Isaac's eyes. He entered this place using the same method she did, but unlike Isabella, there is a reason his equipment is hidden, while only his wings are visible. He used an equipment invisibility potion to hide his appearance, but it does not matter, since he can clearly see all the equipment Isaac is wearing with his own eyes. He then whispers that no matter how much he hides the Michela set, he cannot fool his eyes, and that he must choose whether to let this go or die like a dog. Isaac pretends to be a half-dragon of his caliber, surprised to see one of his own kind after so long, and feigns an introduction. Randolph suggests they go somewhere else for a proper talk, and Isaac asks where. He then notices something on the ground. He says that a hot spring sounds perfect. At the hot spring, Isaac tells the old man that he brought some customers. He adds that he needs to get 2 rooms for them since they are from out of town and have nowhere else to go. The evolved goblin says he told him not to treat customers this way, but Isaac replies that if he did not, no one would come to this rundown hot spring inn, but the entire bill should be put on the cactus's tab. He tries to reply that he already has a hot spring reserved and that this is blatant extortion. He pleads for help from the great hero. Randolph says that thanks to him, they have saved some money, and Isabella adds they are grateful someone is so eager to help. In any case, at the hot spring, the waters are ready. After using the Fairy Queen's tears, the protagonist's body is completely relaxed, and Isaac replies that if this were common, those monsters would not be so eager to visit. But he does not remember this from before, and Isaac says that not even he knows the details, only that they started to sprout at some point. Randolph reflects that it appeared suddenly, and that it could mean something. Isaac asks why he sought him out. Since he knows his identity, they clearly did not meet by chance, and Randolph replies that the stars guided him. The lightning cutter comments that he speaks as if he were a saint. A mere corpse crow could not be a saint, and Randolph says that is quite hypocritical coming from a bandit. Isaac replies that he was brought here and had to do whatever he could to make money. Randolph says that whether he believes him or not does not matter, but he came to make a proposal. He must serve him for 1 year, and if he does, he will be allowed to escape Cramdal and roam the continent once more. Isaac is surprised by this, but he says he has no interest in such things, and that they should make sure never to cross paths again, not even by chance. Randolph asks if he plans to live in hiding because of the memories from that time. He is talking about the mining town he destroyed with his own hands. Randolph maintains his serious expression. Back then, as a protest against the developers, he uses Isaac to cause all kinds of trouble. His karma levels accumulate to the point where he cannot even enter cities, and he eventually stumbles upon a village. The village chief is the typical stock villain one would see in any standard fantasy. He only embezzles the village's development funds or bribes council members to remain in charge. He decides to keep a low profile in the village and takes on the role of an agent hired by the village chief. It is just a role play to hide his power. Surprisingly, unlike the typical minor villain, the village chief is resourceful and bold. He is also very cruel. He makes a man suffer and lose his finger. When this ambitious but incompetent villain gains a subordinate who offers him loyalty, the villain can finally become a demon, and so he walks through the alleys. He comments that he is truly grateful to Isaac. Because of this mine, a mere village chief has become the head of a mining town, and it will bring him riches he could not spend in a lifetime. Isaac says that with this mine they can go even higher, and thinks that it is time to plunder this place and leave. The village chief says it will not take long, and that he must complete his village. Workers are in precarious conditions, unable to even stop. Isaac asks who these people are, and the village chief asks what he is talking about. He says they obviously gathered everyone from the neighboring towns. Because of that, they had to spend a fortune on the royal guard, but it was a necessary expense since they will earn a huge amount of money. He sees a child with a sack on his back. The boy spits on the ground, with no will to live. The village chief stops in front of him. He crouches down to the boy's level. He asks if the boy has caught a cold, and the boy says yes. He has been feeling unwell since yesterday. The village chief says it would be a disaster if he spread the cold to the others, and that he should go rest now. He adds that if only the boy were not infected with filthy pathogens, he could have squeezed more use out of him, and so he takes the boy's life, saying it is truly a shame, but they can just breed more brats. Isaac is stunned, realizing something has gone terribly wrong. The village chief says they can even buy a kingdom thanks to Isaac. Everything has spiraled out of control, and Isaac needs to put things back the way they were. Randolph continues that after that, he took the village chief's life and tried to change the city, but it was useless as it was completely rotten, and villains appeared without end. That is why he unleashed a monster wave to obliterate the city. In the process, many people were swept away and lost their lives. He says the city was destined to fall even without him, so Isaac should stop blaming himself. In response, Isaac tells him to stop pretending he knows everything. Randolph says that if he is staying out of guilt, he is mistaken. Isaac turns, demanding to know who he thinks he is. Randolph replies that he will take the Demon King's life, and if Isaac wants to redeem himself, he should choose a path that truly helps the world. To do that, he is gathering trustworthy companions who will never betray him. Isaac asks how he can be considered trustworthy. Randolph replies that he trusts him completely, because he knows more about him than he can imagine. The lightning cutter says he does not understand a single thing he is saying. He brushes it aside, wanting to know how a mere king of crows could do such a thing. Randolph says they will make a bet instead of a proposal. This place is a city where superiority is determined by one's status, and he will prove to him in the way of monsters that he is no ordinary crow. Isaac asks what he means. Randolph answers that he is talking about the Tower of Mysteries in Cramdell. He means he will obtain a mystery from there to prove his status. The main mission orders him to obtain a special mystery. A mystery is an effect. In game terms, it is the lights or colors that shine around a character, and in Pangania these traits are called mysteries. While some rare mysteries have special functions or serve as secondary aids for certain skills, they have no real power, except for the mysteries of a guild master or a ruler. In short, they are for decoration. But for monsters, they have another meaning. They symbolize the qualifications of their species, like a lion's mane. Because of this, the higher the grade of the mystery, the higher the monster's status. It can even reach the level of a raid boss monster. Of course, obtaining a good mystery does not mean one's innate abilities become stronger. However, strong monsters usually possess good mysteries. And one of the places to obtain high-level mysteries is the Tower of Mysteries in Cramdell. To prove their status there, countless monsters risk their lives to climb it, and the closer one gets to the top, the higher the grade. Isaac asks if he intends to prove his worth in the Tower of Mysteries. He says that if a mere crow like him tries, he will not last 30 minutes before being torn to pieces. Randolph replies that it would be a shame if that happened. Isaac says that is fine, and he should do as he wishes. The Tower of Mysteries opens in 2 days, and he must prove his status. If he succeeds, Isaac will be his comrade, or even his slave. 2 days later, at the Tower of Mysteries, many monsters then make their way there. Isabella says there are more participants than she expected, and Randolph says that more than half are spectators. He asks if she is sure it is okay not to challenge the tower. Isabella says she already has one. She asks if he wants her to show him. She then releases her aura. Randolph wonders why Isabella has the scale of Jormungandr. He wants to know where she got it. She replies that she had a dream where a giant snake coiled around her, and she gained this mystery afterward, but it has no ability. Randolph wonders if she fulfilled some specific condition while he was neglecting her. The scale of Jormungandr is one of the 32 stars, and it grants the right to find the star that no one has yet discovered. The Desert Queen must have recognized the mystery Isabella possessed. That is why she kept her close, placing her on the throne as a princess. If that is the case, the Queen will never give up on Isabella. This terrible connection with the Desert Queen may not be over yet. The girl asks what that was, and Randolph says it was nothing. He reflects that for now he must focus on the current task, and a small mouse shouts that the doors will open soon and all participants must finish their preparations now. Those who are ready must gather near the road, and Randolph comments on this. Isabella says she will be waiting for him. Several monsters walk to the front of the area and stop, staring at the small mouse. Randolph quickly scans everyone there. He notices a pureblood on one side, a leviathan that has reached adulthood, and even a minotaur king. They are all calamity-class monsters here. Today might be a special day. This should not be common. The small mouse says there are many formidable challengers this time, and that the seats for the 5 pillars, Cramdell's new supports, are still vacant. The appearance of someone with the status of a new pillar is something even the White King is eager to see, and Randolph thinks that must be the reason. The 4 pillars of Cramdell, including the Medusa, each one is an opponent that would require a top 30 player on the server to face. Having 4 such monsters is already enough. What are they planning by choosing one more? But a monster behind him tells him to get out of the way. It demands to know how a piece of trash like him dares to challenge the Tower of Mysteries, and Randolph says that is right. The others are surprised by this statement, but they burst into laughter right after. They say if he wants a mystery that suits him, he should go to a convenience store and watch quietly while his kids stay home. It continues, saying he does not know his place, and that one must be at least a high-level beast to challenge this place. He may have been born a little stronger than the other corpse crows, but he is still just a crow, and this is no place for low-level species. It understands the desire to change his destiny by obtaining a high status, but he cannot overcome his species. It screams for him to know his place as the door opens. The system announces that the tower has opened. Entry will begin in 5 seconds, and Randolph says he talks too much. With about 4 seconds remaining, the monster is surprised to be called a maggot. The countdown drops to 2 seconds. Randolph says he has memorized that piece of shit's face. The entrance activates, sending him to a cliff. As expected, the tower's interior consists of separate dimensions. Fortunately, nothing has changed since the last time he was here. He thinks that the Tower of Mysteries is the only place where he failed to get the best reward as Wilhelm. Back then, information was scarce since he was the first to challenge it. He did not know it was impossible to try again, so he stopped halfway. But things are different now. He already has all the strategies in his head as he faces 1,000 level 4 skeleton soldiers. All items are forbidden, except for those equipped, and the monsters have the same level as the participant. Based on his experience as Wilhelm, he knows the extreme conditions for conquering the tower. The key is to enter at the lowest possible level. Every monster in the Tower of Mysteries adjusts to the challenger's level. If the challenger is a high level, so are the monsters. And as their level rises, their patterns diversify and new variables emerge. Of course, just entering at a low level is not enough. He needs a character with overwhelming power that exceeds the standard stats for that level, and he must meet the prerequisite. But obviously, without over 200 talents, the stats and the 13 hidden traits reaching Cramdell would be impossible. Reaching Cramdell would have been impossible in the first place. The system notifies him that he can summon Corpse Crow, and its power depends on his sacred energy, with the damage being proportional. The crows begin to emerge, and Randolph thinks about the second key element, his class. This was another reason he chose the Crow Corps. It is because he has skills specialized for fighting large groups, and while it is a low-performing level 4 boss monster, it is the best in the game against multiple enemies. Furthermore, the skills of a low-tier beast like the Corpse Crow level up much faster than those of high-tier beasts. They take the life of every single skeleton. The system notifies him that his skill level increases by 1, a message that repeats several times. Thanks to his overwhelming number of talents, he cannot level up no matter how many monsters he hunts. But his proficiency can be increased rapidly here. To put it simply, he is the only one who can reach the end of this place. Isaac tells the cactus to stop throwing them on the ground because he has to hand-deliver everyone. Distributing them on a peak day will be very efficient. Everyone is surprised that someone has already cleared a floor of the tower in less than 3 hours. The light for the first floor is already lit. Isaac stands up, saying someone cleared the first floor. Isabella asks what it means for the light to be on. Isaac wonders if it was the dragon ute from before. He asks if she does not know about the Tower of Mysteries. When someone challenging the tower clears a floor, a light turns on, allowing them to track the progress. Everyone seems surprised. Monsters have cleared it before since the completion rate is about 30%, but it is impressive to do it in a time faster than the White King. Isabella says the saint did something incredible again. Isaac asks why she is so sure, since no one knows who cleared it until they come out. Isabella asks if he did not just say this has never happened before, then it cannot be anyone but him. She says she will tell him now, since they might work together in the future, and that he must remember this. If the impossible becomes possible, it is only by the will of the saint. On one of the floors of the tower, a minotaur rests in his chamber, meditating. This is one of the 4 great warriors, Gungi. A monster reports that the tower's light is on. Gungi comments that it was fast. He hopes that this time, a being worthy of the 5 great warriors appears, because he does not want to suffer the same humiliation again. 2 years ago, the 4 great warriors were completely defeated by a single human named Wilhelm. That human did not take his life. He must have done it to use them as bait to lure the White King. No matter how much time passes, that humiliation will not be forgotten. He is to be notified when the 2nd floor lights up, as he will go himself for anyone strong enough to reach that floor or beyond, even if they are not on the level of the 5 warriors. The problem is that the lights are already on up to the 4th floor. Gungi is even more surprised by this feat. He asks if the challenger is already on the same floor as the White King in such a short time. He then makes a decision. He sends word for all 4 great warriors to gather at the Tower of Arcana immediately. Back in the tower, Randolph walks on. The crows follow him toward a body. The summoning skill reaches its maximum level and transcends into advanced summoning. He has cleared the 4th floor of the Tower of Mysteries, and as a reward, he can obtain the Transcendent Mythic Arcana. If he refuses, he will ascend to another trial. Randolph refuses, and so proceeds to the 5th floor. The teleportation begins, its destination to be determined by the challenger's racial stats. Randolph wonders what this means. The system begins to measure his stats. Void, level unknown. Druid, level 10. Celestial, level 20. And Corpse Crow, level 5. The total is 55 points, meeting the tower's final hidden condition. A hidden quest is sent by the Tower Master, asking if he wishes to attempt to clear the mythic Tower of Mysteries. Randolph wonders about the hidden quest. The system notifies him that if he refuses the challenge, the quest will disappear, and he will enter the normal floor. He realizes this is unknown territory, a mythic realm that not even Wilhelm has explored. It would surely yield a higher level mystery as a reward, but he sees no advantage in taking such a great risk. But then, he realizes something. In this world, he is the only one to have discovered this. He wonders how many players could ever refuse an unprecedented adventure that only they could challenge. Faced with this, there is no reason to hesitate. So, he accepts the challenge. He comes face to face with 3 immense skulls. The hidden monster, the awakened skeleton soldier, appears. The monsters here acquire the challenger's racial attributes, taking on his druid and giant traits. Randolph realizes they acquire the attributes he possesses, and he has no idea what kind of monster this is. But the awakened skeleton soldier begins to use the druid's arrow of light spirit. The protagonist is even more surprised by this. He begins to dodge the consecutive blows. He plants his foot on a piece of stone. Hands immediately close in on him. The awakened giant skeleton uses Giant's Grasp. Randolph is almost caught, but he uses his wings to evade the hands. Still in the air, he looks down. He realizes that acquiring racial attributes means they can use that race's skills. Even for a hidden quest, the difficulty has spiked too high. And so, Randolph draws his sword. All the constellations of the 100 stars begin to show interest, and so they begin to watch him. Randolph faces the monster's arrows of light. He comments that he never thought he would be watched by all the temple's constellations at once, and that they are either too curious about the hidden mission, or they came to have fun watching him suffer. Then an explosion erupts, consuming everything in its path. Randolph takes flight once more, his star piercer is used once again, and the energy of the stars circulates through his body for 70 seconds. The protagonist comments that he wanted to have as much fun as possible since he has never seen this monster, but he thinks he will have to end it quickly if he prolongs this fight for too long. He does not want to hear how the constellations would curse him, and so they all focus on him. Outside, everyone is in shock. The light on the top floor has lit up, and they want to know who on earth this is, since they thought most had already left. He must be the strongest and most fearsome existence of all, someone cruel enough to transcend all species, and can only be an absurdly terrifying monster. The protagonist's group watches from the back of the crowd. Isaac thinks that it cannot be that crow, and that he climbed to the 5th floor, where not even the White King succeeded. Everyone in the crowd now begins to make way, because the 4 great warriors have arrived. The Earth Dragon comments that it has been a long time since they all gathered in one place. The Snake Queen says it has only been 2 years and 87 days. Medusa remains silent. Meanwhile, the Earth Dragon asks what they think happened, and Gungi says he is not sure either. But there is a monster challenging the final floor that not even the White King could reach. He does not believe anything in this world is stronger than the White King or Wilhelm, but perhaps someone who rivals them both has appeared. Then the absolute rules of Cramdel could become irrelevant. With that, they will have to welcome this being, whether as an ally or an enemy. Suddenly, a pressure hits everyone there. A voice asks if they were waiting for him, the one who will be the new great warrior. The two are surprised by this. The four say it is not this guy, while the snake begins to gloat. Gungi asks if there is still a species of monster that has not come out. Suddenly, a foot is placed outside. The snake says her Mist Dragon Arcana was worthy, but Randolph calls her a worm. He then turns around, and the protagonist tells her to get out of his way, because he is going to count to 3. He finishes the count as he touches her. The Mist Dragon Arcana is destroyed. That worm asks what that was. Gungi is also surprised by this feat. Randolph says he will definitely remember him, and that his Arcana is Eternal Randolph, which surpasses all specifications and grants various advantages. It can also destroy lower-level mysteries, limited to 1 per target. The results of the main mission begin to calculate, with the constellations granting enhancements. The protagonist finally levels up. A waterfall continues to flow. A man sits on a giant rock. He comments that he smells an interesting scent, an aroma he has never encountered before. The White King says this is very interesting. He clears the 5th floor of the Tower of Mysteries. The indomitable challenger's choice is admirable, and he has earned the achievement of a challenger who became a myth. More skeletons then rise from the ground. His fame increases by 500, and the tower promises his challenge will be recorded for all eternity. All the constellations doubt his feat and face the supreme mystery with trembling. He acquires a scale fragment with 300 hours and can choose 1 reward from 100 options. Randolph thinks they have been replaced, and there is no way to know which ones are real. More importantly, the ability to destroy an opponent's mystery is insane, and it even added a hidden trait, an arcana with no color, no scent, and no form. He cannot see it, but he can definitely feel it. He clenches his fist, thinking that for now he will head outside. The worm screams, demanding to know what happened to his arcana. This cannot be happening. His status was denied by a mere crow. He turns to stone just as he tries to say he will take his life. Randolph looks at him without reacting. He thinks that someone here actually has a brain, and so the Medusa's eyes ability activates. She warns that disturbances within Cramdel are not tolerated under any circumstances. Gungi adds that this is the law of the land decreed by the White King, and to defy it is to become his enemy. He asks if the protagonist is a friend or an enemy. Randolph replies that it depends on how he acts. Gungi thinks it is arrogant to speak to him like that, but he possesses a status that cannot be ignored. He then says he has no intention of becoming his enemy and wishes to inform the White King of the emergence of a high-level peer. Randolph confirms, saying he will gladly accept the invitation, but he has one condition, that his companions come with him at the White King's castle. The 4 warriors walk alongside the main trio. Isaac asks how he let himself get dragged into this, and Randolph asks if he is going back on his word. He had said he would be his slave if he proved his status, and Randolph says it is only fair that he walk this path with him. Isabella asks if he really needs to meet the White King in person. Randolph says he has no reason to refuse the invitation, and there is something he wants from him. Gungi then places his hand on the door. He opens it and announces that they have arrived. These are the White King's chambers. Randolph steps forward. As the 4 great warriors salute the White King, he remains atop the stone. He asks if this is the crow who reached the top of the tower, noting he seems fragile yet interesting. Randolph asks if he is the White King, and remarks that he is quite rude for a first meeting. Isaac thinks this is madness. Gungi does not know how to react. The White King repeats the word manners, and asks if he should really care about such things. Randolph thinks he is without a doubt a final boss, and that without his hidden traits, the pressure would have already stopped his heart. Monsters in Pangania can level up like players, gaining experience by taking lives, but the difference is that they have no limit. Leveling up is not easy since they are always risking their lives, but theoretically, they can level up indefinitely if they survive. A level 11 monster is equivalent to a 1-star transcendent player, and a level 12 is as powerful as a 2-star. And the White King standing before him now emanates a pressure that terrifies everyone in the room. That aura rushes towards the protagonist. It makes even the surrounding sea tremble. The giant's anti-demon energy activates, as does the heart of the Iron Monarch. This protects the protagonist from harm. The Tiger King is level 15, and with Wilhelm and the Demon King gone, he is the absolute ruler of this world. He needs to be careful since a single breath from the king could tear him to pieces right now. He swallows hard nonetheless. He says it is basic etiquette to show respect to a guest. Isaac notices that he has not backed down one bit in the face of the White King's aura. The bull thinks he knew the man was not ordinary, but he never imagined he would not hesitate under such immense pressure. Perhaps he is as powerful as the White King. The tiger breaks into a smile. He then bursts into laughter. He comments that Randolph is a strange fellow, and that he understands why the 4 great warriors brought him here. Randolph thinks that it worked. The White King he knows never pays attention to anything that does not interest him, is possessive of what is his, and is a fierce spirit driven by pure instinct. In the past, the tiger said that at this rate, nothing would be left of Cramdell. He said it was a shame, but they had to stop the fight there, as it would be a problem if his home were destroyed. Wilhelm replies that this is not his home, and the White King answers that he truly has no sense of etiquette. He then lets out a laugh. He throws his tooth, telling him to consider it a reward for not taking his warriors' lives, adding that he gives everything to those he likes. In other words, one must first pique his interest to speak with him, and the Tiger King asks for the protagonist's name. Randolph thinks that being called strange by him is the highest compliment, and it seems he has piqued his interest. So he replies that his name is Randolph. The Tiger King thinks that he cannot see his form, but he can sense the mystery. He looked into the eyes of the Medusa, and perhaps the Tower of Mysteries granted him the authority to utterly destroy mysteries. His own mystery trembles before Randolph's, and that is the indicator of a species' rank. For him to have obtained such an unknown one means his rank is superior. This does not always mean more power, but if he completed the mythical trial, he is no ordinary being. That is why he does not know if he can contain his desire to fight. Randolph thinks the king is losing control. He comments that if they fight, Cramdell will be wiped off the map, and he should not make a rash decision. The Tiger King says he is right, and that he cannot destroy his own land. He then asks if Randolph cleared the Tower of Mysteries, and Randolph says it was nothing special. The Tiger King asks what the trial on the hidden floor was. The protagonist asks if the information is free. There is something he is looking for, and he wants the king's cooperation as the ruler of Cramdell. The White King says that is a trivial matter. If there is something he wishes to find, he should go ahead, since no monster would dare harm one of the 5 great warriors. Randolph says he is not interested in serving him, and thinks he will not get involved more than necessary. The Tiger King says he has misunderstood. A great warrior is not a subordinate, but a status equal to his own. They simply show him respect. Randolph thinks they are weaker than the White King, but they are all level 12. So the classless all use the same title, which means they should not cause trouble. Of course, that is the White King's view. But those warriors act like loyal subordinates, and they probably created the Great Warrior title to reinforce their own forces. In any case, he cannot refuse this. The tiger welcomes the strange crow. He speaks of the birth of a new pillar of Cramdell. Elsewhere in the city, Randolph's trio meets with the Snake Queen. She questions why the crow has summoned her in private. Randolph says that, as the ruler of the Necro Valley and queen of the lifeless, there is something he is looking for, and he asks for her cooperation. The queen says she has no time to waste on trivial matters, and that he should ask another warrior, but Randolph says they promised cooperation in the White King's name. The queen asks what he is looking for that requires citing the king, and why he came to her specifically. Randolph says that what he has been searching for in this land is her very existence, because he has taken a great liking to the girl. Isabella and Isaac are stunned, while the protagonist asks to go to her sanctuary. The Snake Queen then calls out to him. She asks if he has become one of the perverse pillars and come to claim her. She does not think he is ambitious, but warns him not to be mistaken. Randolph asks what nonsense she is talking about. He heard that she has a deep understanding of art, and he has been searching for an artist just like her. They say her sanctuary is filled with beautiful works of art, and he wants to see the cadaver art within. Shortly before leaving the Garden of Knights, Andrew asks if he wants him to issue an indulgence. The protagonist confirms, and Andrew asks what he intends to use it for. He would love to give it to him, but the rules do not allow it to be handed out so simply. Randolph thinks that, as expected, since it is a quest reward, he cannot get it for free. In any case, it would not be for free, and he wants to make an offer, because he will bring his daughter back in the days when he played Pangania as Wilhelm. Andrew had asked him to purify his daughter Andasar, who had turned into an eldritch. The purification succeeded, but she failed to regain her human body and died moments later. Shortly after, her corpse was stolen, taking her from Andrew yet again. Later, upon arriving in Cramdell in Wilhelm's body, he discovered the Serpent Queen had taken it. Randolph says he knows where her body is and takes responsibility for bringing it back. Of course, he needs to recover one indulgence, and will need another to retrieve Andasar, one for her recovery, and the other as his reward. Back in the present, Randolph says he wants to see her works of art, and the Serpent Queen trembles. She says she gladly invites him, adding that she had no idea he was interested in art. On the outskirts of the city of Cramdell, in the Serpent Queen's castle, she tells him to make himself at home, saying there is no need for thanks since a monster who understands art is always welcome. Isaac comments that first, it was the White King's sanctuary, and now the Serpent Queen's. He is going through everything he never wanted in a single day, and Isabella tells him to get used to it. The young man says she is handling it all too calmly, and she replies that she has served the saint for much longer. She tells him not to forget that she is second in command. For the record, Hudson is third, and Isaac comes after him. The Ray Cutter reflects that he thought the Serpent Queen was a madwoman who turned an entire city into a field of corpses, but she does not seem so hostile. She then presents the view of her sanctuary. Dozens of human arms form a tower. A mask made from a human face also rests beneath a frame. The girl asks what he thinks, saying she does not like to brag, but is very proud of these pieces, and she asks him to please tell her what he thinks. A heavy pressure immediately fills the room. Isaac asks what kind of disgusting hobby this is, but the Serpent Queen then appears right in front of him. She asks if he is insulting her art. Isaac says he did not mean it that way and is very sorry, adding that disturbances are not allowed in Cramdell. The Serpent Queen says the 5 great warriors hold the same status as the White King, and taking the life of one of them will not be a problem. She says if he thought the rules of Cramdell would protect him, he is mistaken. But Randolph interrupts, saying the art of a master is always difficult for common minds to comprehend. He says he feels how her art resonates deep within his heart. He says it is only natural that an ignorant fool cannot understand. He tells her to ignore the idiot and present her works. The Serpent Queen turns, asking if he really means it, and she will present them right away. Isaac immediately shrinks in fear. The Serpent Queen shows him leather made from the skin of humans who invaded Cramdell, explaining she tried to preserve the colors of the blood. Now for what she is about to show him next. Randolph asks what it is. She replies that this piece is still unfinished, but he can have a look. She then opens the curtains for him. She then answers that it is the body of an eldritch she acquired by chance. She is trying to make a Dullahan with this rare body, and Randolph thinks he has finally found Andasar. The girl comments that the material is like an unattainable prize and simply will not stabilize. She can only create art from fully purified corpses, but for some reason its state of frenzy does not disappear. If she even tries to work on it, the energy spirals out of control like this. That is why she calls it an unattainable prize, and wonders what good a material she cannot use is. Randolph asks if she could give it to him, since she is not going to use it. She says that if he can handle a corpse that even she could not manage, she would give it to him gladly, so the protagonist moves his hand. He thinks that the reason the Serpent Queen could not stabilize it is because Andasar is no ordinary corpse. She is an anomaly, something between human and monster. The evil deeds she committed as an eldritch must have accumulated as suppression when she returned to her human form. When a humanoid character accumulates suppression, they enter a state of frenzy. In other words, the effect on her will only end if the suppression is reduced. So he says that he absolves the sins of Andasar. This can be reduced with an indulgence. The suppression bar empties and the state is removed. The Serpent Queen thinks that she knew he was no ordinary man and wonders how he can purify a material that even she could not. She wonders if he not only has artistic vision, but also the skill of creation. The Queen of the Lifeless has always been lonely, as her art is so profound that no one can understand it. Brilliant critics sometimes appear, but that is all, and they cannot alleviate her profound loneliness. Critics cannot share in her anguish, nor in the joy of creation. The thought that she would never share her world was terrifying for the Queen. The crow before her is the only one of his kind, and she questions why he has appeared only now. Randolph obtains a part of Andasar's body, and he looks at the Serpent Queen, not understanding what she means. It has been a month since monsters invaded the Earth and dimensional warriors emerged. In that time, a massive forum appeared and reached 1 billion views. Dimensional warriors spend their time answering posts. They share detailed guides on how to deal with future threats and what to do when monsters appear. As a result, it reached the point where world governments began to recommend the community. Faced with the fear of the unknown, the information there became their only hope, a true survival guide. And the owner of this forum is treated almost like a religious figure, the Master. He is active even before the first invasion, then recruits countless warriors, and, thanks to this, builds the largest player faction. With this power, he negotiates directly with political leaders and major corporations around the world, an astute man who expands the community. Amidst the many chairs of the council, the god of war, Master, is also one of the 8 heroes. Black Star, the Lightning Emperor, asks if Gracia has not returned. The Nine-Tailed Fox says they did not come to America for nothing. Banhi tells them not to worry about her, since it is not the first time she has disappeared without warning. Lucifer says the important thing now is the Randolph they suspect is Wilhelm, who has messed up the rankings again. Maxime questions if they are just going to let him do whatever he wants. Master replies that sooner or later they will deal with him, but first of all, they need to prepare for the true invasion that is about to begin. If the previous invasions were just scouts from another dimension, the moment the dimensional rift opens, the real war will begin. When that happens, people will realize that neither the police nor the army can protect them, and that the only ones who can save them are the players. From now on, people will not follow corporations or governments, but the players. Soon, the world will change. The collapse is at 9.1%, and when it reaches 10%, the first wall will break. Back in the castle, the Serpent Queen asks what kind of magic he used, and Randolph thinks that, unlike humans, monsters do not enter a frenzy. It makes sense. If a monster commits atrocities, its reputation increases, so there is no reason for a frenzy. He says that asking about techniques is taboo among martial artists, but he will consider her case. The Serpent Queen asks him to think it over carefully. The protagonist says that, as promised, he will take this work of art with him, but he wants to know where the head is, as he is supposed to return the complete body. He asks where the head is, since an artist would not carelessly discard such precious material. The Queen says she wanted the complete piece, but had no choice. When she found the body, the head was already gone. She followed the energy trail to the basement of Cramdell, but gave up because it was impossible to enter. Randolph asks if it was impossible even for her, one of the pillars of Cramdell. The girl replies that no one on the continent is capable of subjugating them, except for the Star Guardians. But because of a non-aggression pact, they had no choice but to retreat. Randolph asks what they were doing there, and the girl replies that she does not know the details. But it seems Cramdell's special hot springs have some connection to the stars. However, a unique grade mystery covers the area like a veil, and not even they can get close to the star, so they just waited. As time passed, the gate of Cramdell fell under the control of the Star Guardians, and because of this, the White King was furious. But if the king is acting so cautiously, then the pact must be serious. She says it is a shame, but Randolph must forget about the head. Randolph questions if it is not that simple. It is an easy problem to solve if he just eliminates all of them. Thinking about it, he remembers the scene when he eliminated the worm mystery. He then tells her to inform the White King that he will eliminate the intruders in Cramdell. One day later, in the basement of Cramdell, the Star Guardian Dramut and the Phoenix stand there as a voice asks if it is true, and if he can really destroy that Veil Arcana. The voice asks how the Corpse Crow can do it, and if Dramut can stand by his words. If it is a lie, there will be severe consequences for him. A few hours earlier, at the central hot springs of Cramdell, Dramut says it is unbelievable. An ability to transform into a monster is incredible, and he wants to know if Randolph is even human. He also wants to know how Randolph knew he was there. Randolph says he heard some Guardians were nearby and confirmed it with the administrators. Changing the subject, he asks if they gathered for the 33rd star, when there are only 32. Dramut says that is correct. There are 32 stars formed from the fragments of Leah's body, but they suspect this star belongs to Pina, the goddess of the sky. With the emergence of a 33rd star that did not exist before, the Guardians are taking turns to protect the place, and Randolph thinks she was the youngest of the goddesses. The current continent is the piece of land the goddess Pina raised to the heavens, and the original ground was consumed by the abyss. The theory was that the demon realm existed down there. Randolph asks if the goddess becoming a star means she lost her life, and Dramut says they gathered to confirm it. But they are having difficulties because a unique grade arcana blocks the path like a veil. Randolph says that is why he came to him, since he will deal with this arcana for them. Dramut says an arcana is practically truth itself, and it is impossible for anyone to destroy such a thing. He laughs, but then looks at the protagonist's serious face. He questions if he is actually being serious. Back in the present, he thinks that he also finds it hard to believe. But Randolph is not the type of person to bluff without reason. The Guardian asks why he would help even if it is true, and Randolph replies that he has something he needs to find, so everyone wins in the end. That Guardian says it was all right, but he wants to know why the others came here as well, thinking he had warned them not to approach the star, with the White King sitting there in front. He tells him to relax, as they will not get any closer, and only came to watch since his guests could not solve it, and the newest pillar will take care of it. The Guardian calls him a miserable hyena. He glares with contempt as he releases an energy. Randolph thinks this has already turned into a mess anyway, and it is a pain, because it would be better to just get this over with and send everyone away. So he touches the wall of the arcana. He reflects that it truly is a mystery. If what is blocking the path is an arcana, its grade does not matter. It will not be a problem. But the system says that destroying the first wall will start the main quest. Randolph thinks this is making him suspicious, but now there is no turning back. The barrier then begins to crack. It fragments more and more. The Tiger King is surprised and says this is interesting, and the Guardian turns, thinking the same thing. Everything becomes mere shards before the flying protagonist. He has destroyed the first wall. Randolph thinks the problem of the blocking arcana is solved, and so this is the 33rd star they were all talking about. Now that he has found it, he wants to discover what kind of quest this main quest is, but something surprises him even more. An armored knight appears on its horse. It walks forward without showing any hesitation. The system says the collapse of Pangania has reached 10, and so that knight awakens its energy. The mission was to eliminate the boss of the dimensional rift. It stands before the Guardians and the protagonist, and so the mission begins. Isabella then calls the Saint. The Serpent Queen asks if he is all right. Randolph reflects that he was certain he had taken his life during the expedition to the demon realm, but he somehow managed to sneak his way here. Ahram, the first king of hell, the Guardian. Ahram comments that the star arcana that kept them suppressed has vanished. They must prepare to cross to the other dimension, since the dimensional rift will open as soon as he takes Pina's heart. The end of times has finally arrived. The system notifies that if King Ahram is not eliminated within 30 days, all rifts will open and ruin will appear. The people of planet Earth look to the sky, wondering what that is, and what is going to happen. A secretary shouts to the master that the collapse rate has finally reached 10%, and it seems the first rift is about to open. He pleads for him to give the orders, but the master says there is no reason to rush. It is impossible for a demon king to appear in the very first rift, so their preparations are more than enough. Not until this city drowns in tears of blood. And when they beg for the players to save them, that will be the moment they spring into action. The world will belong to the players, but the system notifies that the mission is already in progress, with its progress increasing every second. The master thinks that the rift has not even opened yet, but a raid is already underway, and he wants to know what the hell is happening. Back in Pangania, the progress is at 17% as Ahram is struck by the Guardian of the Stars once again. Ahram says this is impossible, and questions how he could be defeated so easily. To be so powerless, his reign of chaos is already over. In Pangania, there are 3 beings widely known as the strongest: the Demon King, the White King, and Wilhelm, and there are even jokes that only these 3 could take each other's lives. However, this premise is limited to the existing races in Pangania, not counting NPCs and users. Among the units created by the system to protect the stars, there is another monster capable of rivaling them. The strongest among the Guardians, the Giant of Evil Extermination, who asks how Ahram dares to covet the goddess's symbol. Randolph sits down, wondering who would have thought that the veil-like arcana was containing Ahram, and that with the Guardians, it would be so much easier, especially with that big guy around. The Giant of Evil Extermination is in charge of protecting Wilhelm's last star. Now that he is on their side, he is one of the most reliable allies they could have, and the tiger approaches, saying it is a shame. That big guy finished everything far too easily. It seems they will not get to see what he is truly capable of here. Randolph thinks he is being tested and comments that he would only help until the arcana was destroyed. The Tiger King thinks he is smarter than he looks and did not fall for his bluff after all, commenting that it is disappointing, but a scream can be heard from a distance. Ahram falls to his knees, calling him damned. The main mission to defeat the king of the dimensional rift is complete. Everyone comments that things are returning to normal and wonder why there are no monsters. In his room, the master thinks they were just one step away. He recruited dozens of warriors for this day, and it ended before they could even swing a sword. He will never forgive Randolph, the only one who contributed to the main mission. He becomes even more enraged. Back in Pangania, everyone gathers. The giant wonders if that crow stopped the explosion. The white tiger thinks that he stopped an explosion that even he could not control, and that he can no longer doubt him. This is no longer just curiosity, and he truly wants him for himself. Isaac and Isabella run towards the saint. Randolph thinks that he has already leveled up, as the experience from the reward was very good. The reward he obtained is a holy grail that can only be unsealed by a high priest of honor. Just then, a scream can be heard. Ahram calls him a bastard and demands to know what the hell he did. He tells him to change everything back, threatening to take his life. Randolph thinks that sealing Ahram so easily was only possible because the evil giant had weakened, but it was still an incredible skill. He wonders if that is the sacred relic of the heaven-like great sage, which was a great help, since now he only needs to find Andasar's head. So he asks if he has seen the head of a Dullahan named Andasar. Ahram spits at him, mocking him and saying he will never tell. The protagonist commands the golden tiara to tighten its grip, and so Ahram hands over Andasar's head. The protagonist says that he had it all along, and Ahram comments that he kept it because he thought he could create an undead from it. Randolph thinks that he is the king of the lifeless and has the ability to control them, so it must have gotten mixed in while he gathered corpses for his army. He then asks Isaac to take good care of it. The giant calls out to the corpse crow. He says that from the barrier to this moment, he owes him a great debt, and offers his gratitude. Randolph thinks that he never imagined he would live to see him give thanks. Of course, if he knew he was Wilhelm, he would take his life for being the fool who could not even protect his star, so it is better to keep his identity a secret. So he tells him to forget it, saying he wanted something in return, and if he is grateful, he should give him the star. The giant says that regardless, unlike that idiot who lost his star, he is a very useful crow. He says he will repay this debt one day, and as for the star, they will decide its fate after they recover it. Randolph thinks it is a shame, as he would like to take it for himself, but he cannot afford to make an enemy of them. Then, the guardian moves his hand. The star then emanates its light. It illuminates the entire area and moves towards the protagonist. It stops right in front of Randolph, and suddenly, it enters his body of its own accord. Memories surface of when he was Wilhelm, and the Demon King says that for a 5-star transcendent to corner him so completely without any divine blessing was his fatal mistake. Without the goddess's authority, he can break his body, but not destroy his essence. And thanks to that, he will take him as his new vessel. He then envelops him in energy, just as seen before in Serengeti's explanation. But after that, Wilhelm sank into darkness. Hands of the lifeless begin to reach out for him. His consciousness gone, he simply falls. But a voice says it never imagined that he could become so strong without the divine blessing of a goddess. If his body is completely taken now, not just this world but all connected dimensions could crumble from the destruction. So she begs that being. The being beyond the rift connected to the Night King. All she can do now is trade her life for a fleeting moment, and she prays for him to return to this place one more time. And so he is consumed by the goddess, continuing the outcome we saw before. Some return for their own desires, others because of their bonds, and some for their own goals. They all return for different reasons, and still she hopes that he, at least, is always someone who loves Pangania. And so the Demon King wishes for Pina to lose her life. Back in the present, Isabella asks if he is awake. Randolph thinks that this is the goddess's memory. The Guardian comments that he was chosen, that just now was Pina's star, and it means she chose him. The twin goddesses are one, which means they are family now, and the Tiger King says that is just nonsense. He says he must not try any tricks with the 5 great warriors. The giant says that the moment the star recognized him, he became a guardian, and it is impossible for a mere wretch like him to nullify the goddess's authority. The tiger says it does not matter, and what matters now is that he has decided he wants this. Isaac asks if they should leave quickly, and Isabella says things seem to have gotten complicated, until a voice calls out to the protagonist. The Cobra Queen says he should be by her side. Dramet calls out to his master, telling him to come over immediately because it is dangerous there. Meanwhile, the Guardian and the White Tiger begin to fight each other. Randolph says they are just talking crap and wants to know why they are deciding his future. The White Tiger King says he already agreed to become a great warrior. And the giant says that being a guardian is his destiny. Randolph says that if they really want to take him, then they must show which side offers the greater benefit. Back at the Tiger King's castle, he says it is ridiculous, and he cannot believe he is bargaining for a seat among the great warriors. Randolph says that if he does not like it, he should walk away, and the Tiger King tells him to come back, saying that is not what he meant. He then asks if he is satisfied with the Star Guardian's proposal, and the protagonist says it was reasonable. They decided to grant him a title. Randolph thinks that is not bad at all, and if he gets a title, it will be easier to earn stars. The tiger says that was a pathetic reward just like them, and that he is different from those cheapskates. If he joins him, he will receive a city anywhere he desires. Of course, cities in the Arthon Empire or those protected by the Black King are off the table. Randolph realizes this means he would give him any city outside of those 2 places, even if it had to be conquered by force. Despite losing the power struggle to the White King, the Black King rules the south, and beyond him is Arhon, the only empire on the continent. Besides those 2, no faction can resist an invasion from these monsters, and if he makes his decision now, he can wield their power in any city he chooses. It is an exceptional offer, which means he is recognized to that extent. but on the other hand, it also means he is considered a threat of that same level, and that the king will not hand him over to anyone. He then cracks a smile, thinking the negotiations are over. If he hesitates any longer, he will lose their trust. So he accepts his offer. After he accepts the White King's proposal, things move quickly. The king officially announces him as a warrior, making him a member of Cramdal. Things will likely get awkward with the Star Guardians, but he decides not to worry about that today. Finally, Andasar's body, his original objective, is delivered by the Serpent Queen, and preparations are made to return it to Andrew. Randolph says this is too much, and they did not need to see him off personally, but the White King says it is nothing. He hopes Randolph settles his business quickly so they can meet again. Randolph turns away, but the system notifies him that he has received the White King's recognition, activating the teleport with the authority of one of the 5 great warriors. He announces that he is leaving, as the system increases his honor for the achievement. He then moves to the designated point in the Garden of Knights, in the middle of all that desolate land. Isaac says he is human after all, and Randolph replies that nothing changes, and he should not forget his promise to serve him for a year. Isabella says that speaking of which, she wants to know where he put Ahram. Randolph pulls out a strand of hair. He says he stored him away for a while because he was making too much noise, and decided to carry him since he will be useful for now. But it seems they have arrived while they were talking, back in the Garden of Knights, as he walks through the city again. Isabella says the atmosphere feels worse than before, and she is sure Hudson was working hard to rebuild the city. Isaac then notices something different. Several people have been executed and hung in the public squares. They are all civilians from this city. Randolph is stunned by this. He remembers the knight he had faced, who is also in the same state, or Miss May, the one he saved. She also met the same end. Everyone who was with him after he saved the city. They all ended up like this, with only Andrew on the ground praying. Randolph wonders what happened here. Andrew turns, calling for his brother. He asks if he has finally returned, telling him he cannot stay here and must hide. Randolph calls his name once more, saying he wants to know what happened in this town. Andrew explains that the Kaiser mercenaries, led by Maxim, attacked the town. As he knows, the Lord had accumulated debts, especially with Duke Cien, and Maxim came as the Duke's messenger and successor. He said he would take the territory if they could not pay the money, but Hudson offered to pay the debt in their place. Maxim just kept staring forward with contempt. He was one of the 8 heroes after all. Visor asks what this means since they said they would pay, but Maxim asks what he is talking about. The person Duke Cien lent the money to was the Lord, not the merchant, so he still has not received his money back. Hudson asks how he can say something so absurd. Visor realizes that his goal from the very beginning was to take the territory, so he puts his hand on his sword, telling him to get his filthy ass out of there. All the knights draw their swords, and he says this is a monument dedicated to the heroes who gave their lives to protect their loved ones. A monument for heroes, not something he can just touch however he pleases. Maxim says that is strange, and asks if there have always been so many heroes. As far as he knows, there are no heroes outside of the 8. Then he releases his energy. Back in the present, Andrew says that before he even knew what was happening, the battle was already over. Although the knights and townspeople fought with all their might, they were no match. After it was all over, he heard that the only reason there was no loss of life was thanks to Mr. Hudson, who knelt before Maxim, saying that if it is money they want, he will pay, but asks them to stop. Maxim asks what has gotten into him, since he already said his duke does not need money. Hudson says that is not what he meant, and that he will double the principal amount as long as he is given 30 more days. Maxim is surprised by this and says it sounds tempting, but he calls him an idiot, since he could just take everything anyway, and asks why he would accept. And if he does this, he doubts a piece of trash like him could resist. Maxim asks if he feels like handing over the money now. Hudson says he's getting it wrong. He is a merchant. There are times he pays for a deal, but he would rather lose his life than simply hand over his money for free. Just 30 days for their lord to return. For 30 days, no one will lay a finger on anyone, not even on Sarah Genti. That is his only condition for the deal. Andrew says his brother must tell him if they truly are heroes who dedicated themselves to the continent and to humanity, but Randolph is consumed by rage. The star inside him shines even brighter, making his heart pound with so much rage. The heart of the Iron Monarch allows the emotion of wrath to persist, as it is a matter worthy of a monarch's fury. The mission of the iron-blooded monarch begins, in front of a gigantic castle. A mercenary comments that he is incredibly bored, and his colleague replies that they are stuck here for a whole month because of the captain. It is orders, but maybe they will get a reward later. Then he notices something. Randolph approaches them alone. The guards wonder what that is. One orders him to stop. demanding to know who he is, since he does not look like he is from the city, and no resident would be crazy enough to walk near them. He asks why he is snooping around. Randolph simply asks where Maxim is. The mercenary asks if the captain is his friend, adding that he must have a death wish to speak of him that way. But his neck is struck before he can finish the sentence. He begs for help, but Randolph does not stop. His colleague shouts, asking if he has any idea who they are. Randolph says he will ask one last time where Maxim is. The mercenaries begin to gather outside now that the first guards have been eliminated. They shout for everyone to get there as he is on the first floor, and that they must take his life at once. Randolph draws his sword as he advances. He takes the life of every man in his path. He finishes off a bald man without taking a single hit. Then he easily lands a punch to his face. The soldiers keep advancing on him, but they all fall before him, unable to resist. Randolph continues on his way after taking all their lives. His face remains a serious mask of anger. He reaches the second floor of the castle. He looks at the room before him. Meanwhile, a few bandits lurk behind him. Finally, he crosses the room. A bandit tries to strike with his axe, but he is cut down in a fraction of a second. He is thrown aside, leaving only one more. Terrified, he too is struck by the sword. One of the mercenaries is stunned by all of this. He begs to be spared and screams his captain's name, but Randolph takes his life before he can finish, until Maxim appears behind him. He attempts a slash, but Randolph dodges it. He then grabs him by the shirt and slams Maxim into the ground with force. Randolph points his sword at him, plunging it into his mouth once more. The scene is bathed in blood, but Maxim is still alive, thanks to his demonic worshipper trait. That dark energy begins to infuse his body, sending Randolph flying moments later. The protagonist makes a huge impact as he hits the ground. Maxim says Hudson was trying to buy time, which made him wonder if he had a contingency plan. And it turns out it was the protagonist, his contingency plan, as he becomes shrouded in blood. Randolph questions what his motive was. If he was just after money, he could have taken it all in silence and left. If it was territory, he could have just conquered the lands, but he defiled the people. Maxim asks about a motive. He laughs, saying he has none, and that he needs no reason to take the lives of the weak. If he really needs an explanation, he will give him one. They were weaklings who dared to stand alongside the 8 heroes and build monuments honoring themselves. Randolph tells him not to go around calling just anyone a hero, especially a coward who fled at the very gates. Maxim thinks the only ones who should know that are them. He asks if he is the ghost. They had a feeling Randolph's rookie could be him, and that he had indeed become a player. So he uses level appraisal. He appraises the user's level, which is 6. He says he thought Randolph would hide somewhere and bide his time getting stronger, but to think he would come for him first. He says he has grown arrogant, drunk on past glory, as he grabs Randolph's head. He throws him through a wall for having grown so weak. He then lunges with his knife, speaking of the price of arrogance. That price would be his life, but Randolph dodges the blow. He asks if he is done talking. Maxim then feels an immense pressure. Randolph says he should have taken the money and left, and at the very least he should not have touched the people. Because of his stupidity, the Kaiser mercenaries lose their lives today. Maxim says he threw Marquis Weiser and the others in the dungeons, and they might just drop dead before Randolph can finish him off. But Randolph says that will not happen. Weiser is looking out the window. Randolph explains that he sent trustworthy people there. He then activates Star Pierce, which will circulate through his body for 70 seconds, and tells Maxim, the fugitive, that this time he will not be able to escape. He was an ordinary human being. Not brilliant, but he never wanted for anything. Perfectly average. He was simply born, he worked, and he carried on that way. And even if he lost his life and vanished, he was such an ordinary human being that it would make no difference at all. And that fact did not change inside the game. Then one day, he became a player. Maxim wonders what this is. There was no way an ordinary human like him could enter the game and get involved in battles, much less complete main quests, while he hid in this world, unable to log out. That thing appeared before him, a demon, a race that exists only in the lore of Pangania, a class unobtainable by users, a stroke of luck that only one player could possess. The day he seized that opportunity, he became special and earned his fortune, until Wilhelm asks if he is the leader of the Kaiser mercenaries. He wants to hire him for the upcoming expedition to the Demon Realm, offering a payment of 1,200 gold coins. Maxim says that amount could hire 20 high-level mercenaries, but Wilhelm tells him he does not need anyone else. The payment is for him alone, and filling the party with mediocre trash will only drain their supplies. He takes that as a yes. Maxim thinks he has finally been recognized, that the strongest man on the server needs him, but he wonders what happens if they take the Demon King's life. whether he will remain a player or return to what he once was. Back in the present, his body becomes imbued with demonic energy. Maxim asks if a weakling like him truly believes he can escape. He then charges toward the protagonist. He lunges at him with his fists. The glass shatters from the sheer force of the blow. Randolph turns, his ears bleeding, but he retreats with swift steps. Maxim tells him to know his place. His demonic energy materializes into spears. They shoot toward the protagonist at incredible speed. Randolph summons the supreme iron sword. He begins to slice through the spears with ease. He then equips the boots of Hermes and Michaela's armor, activating the set effect and an appearance that adjusts to his level, and he finally uses the acceleration skill. He unleashes a slash that cuts through Maxim. He first slices through the monster's legs. It tries to retaliate, moving to counter, but the protagonist is already on him. Maxim says that kind of attack does not work on him. The protagonist is stunned by this reaction. He is trapped by tentacles of demonic energy. Outside the castle, numerous tentacles are visible. Isaac wonders what that is. Isabella is shocked and calls out for the saint. Everything is filled with sharp tentacles, like stakes. Maxim begins to breathe heavily. He screams that Randolph parried every single one of his attacks. The protagonist says an attack that relies only on strength, with no feints to create openings or precision to hit blind spots, will not work. Maxim charges forward, telling him to shut his mouth, saying he was just busy running away from him like a fly. Randolph says he just was not sure if he could end it yet, and did not think his level was so low. He pulls Maxim's head back, asking if he has ever fought someone on his level. Maxim tells him not to speak with such arrogance, insisting he is not inferior even to those guys. But the protagonist says he is weak and advances once more, cutting him in two, and then again and again, relentlessly. He continues until only a small piece is left. Maxim is stunned by this. The protagonist says he has found the demonic heart. Maxim thinks that he needs to recover his body right away, but Randolph impales it on his sword, asking if this is all he got for selling his soul to the devil. Maxim begs him to wait, admitting that he has lost. He apologizes for what happened during the expedition, saying he only did it because he was afraid of losing this power. He says that if Randolph spent so much time on a hopeless game like this, he must have been a nobody in reality, so he should understand how he feels. Randolph says he has gone too far to be forgiven, and that he has taken too many lives. Maxim argues they were just NPCs, not even players. Randolph says they were just like them. They feel pain and sadness just the same. As the two who entered this world as players, they both know they are no longer just NPCs. It is time for Maxim to pay for his crimes. The system warns that his abilities will disappear if the demonic heart breaks, and he does not want to go back to being an insect. But he is finished off by the protagonist. An immense pain fills his eyes, but he is simply split in half. The protagonist earns the Demon Hunter achievement and loots the scale fragment from him. The Iron Blood Monarch trait evolves into the heart of the Eternal Monarch, and the mission is complete.